Caroline and D-Mase, or Caroline, Willy, and D-Mase, however you want to, line up the names. It doesn't matter. It's always going to be a great show, whether Caroline is first or Willy is first or I'm first or last, or you want to add Nick in there too. It's always going to be a wonderful show. We got a lot to discuss today. The Predators did it into one of the hottest teams. They are the hottest team in the NHL, but they put it on the Florida team, and it wasn't even close, Willie. It really wasn't. What? They dominated that game from start to finish. The score ended up being what? I turned it off. It was 2-0. I think
3-0 was the final.
Yeah, they ended up scoring another goal, 3-0. Hats off to Lankinen. Was awesome in net once again. The Predators now have picked up, 15, 16 straight points, somewhere around there.
16, a brand new record for the franchise.
A brand new record for the Nashville Predators. Give it up for them. Yes, Nashville Predators and Coach Bruno. He got those boys playing really, really good ice. Good hockey on the ice, man. It's so good. The ice is hot right about now. But congratulations to them on another victory. And then for all the UK fans, let me say this. UT fans, congratulations on the win last night. I know you expected to win, and you handled business. You end up winning by close to 30, I think, if not 30. So you handle your business. But on the flip side of that one, the University of Kentucky. Boy, oh boy. I tell you. Just when you thought it couldn't get low for the University of Kentucky, it has gotten lower. You know, when Michelle Obama said, when they go low, we go high, nah. When they go low, Coach Cal goes lower, and he ends up losing in the first round. Come on, Kentucky fans. I feel bad for you, Kentucky fans. I really do, and I mean this sincerely. I feel bad for y'all because y'all may be the only team in the country that – every year, y'all get disappointed, and y'all know you're going to get disappointed. Y'all know Cal is going to Cal eventually, and he did just that. Y'all should have knew it was coming the way they exited the SEC tournament. And I know a lot of people say, well, it's just the SEC tournament. We're getting ready for the big tournament. We don't care about that tournament. Well, damn it, you should have cared about it because you know what? You didn't care about that tournament, and you damn sure didn't care about this tournament because the way that Oakland – you know where Oakland is, UK fans? It's right in Michigan. Right up the street, in Macomb, right up the street. 15, 20 minutes from my house, okay, on the west side of Detroit. All right? And y'all lost to Oakland. Boy, oh boy. I tell you this. Never again will I predict Kentucky to go past the first round. Ever again. I don't care if they had Michael Jordan in his prime. I don't care if they had LeBron in his prime. I don't care if they had, who else? KD. They can have 5 All-Stars. I still wouldn't pick them. You know why I wouldn't pick them? Because Coach Cal is doing the coaching. That's why I wouldn't pick them. For some reason, this man is damn near excellent during the season. He is. He's excellent in the recruiting trail. There's nobody that can out-recruit Coach Cal. Nobody. But you know what? When it's time to play, it's time to lace those things up for real, when they got to really win games and move forward, he can't do it for whatever reason. His play, and then he gave some excuse. Oh, that team's older than me. Well, damn it. Whose fault is that, Coach Cal? It's not their fault that they're a little bit older than you. And Coach Cal, it's not like you're playing against 30-year-olds either or 28-year-olds either. You're playing against guys that are 22, 21. Maybe there's a 23. Maybe.
Well, he's talking about one guy.
Yeah, but that was your fault. You couldn't stop that old man. That's your fault, Coach Cal. He's older than everybody. You couldn't stop him. And he's the only guy this guy, when you were scouting him, how many 2-point shots did that man take?
8.
8 in a whole season, Coach Cal, and you let this man run up a 10-piece on you. 10-piece and 3-pointers. Man, come on. How crazy can you be? Exactly what I said. Coach Cal, he coached Cal. He coached himself out of a victory. That was embarrassing.
You know,
And I truly do.
I
feel
wish I had
bad
gotten the
for
speech.
Kentucky fans.
Why
I
did
really
you
do.
not give me this speech earlier this week? Because I was the idiot that had Kentucky going deep in the tournament. My bracket is shot.
Yeah, don't worry, Willie.
Jack Golke, thank
a lot
you very
of other
much.
people's
Good
brackets
grief.
are shot. Hey, people, text in the text line,
Yes.
call in, and tell me if your bracket is shot because of Coach
Okay,
Cal.
that is what it's exactly the thought I had here. Now, D-Mase is going to come on at 11:30. We'll talk about the Predators. Big game tomorrow. The Red Wings are coming into town.
The Detroit boys coming into town.
Detroit boys are coming into town, and I feel like they're going to bring some people, okay? Not like the old days.
These people already here, Willie.
They're here. There's no question, unless they're going to see Oakland play.
Yeah, exactly.
You're right. They might. And I wouldn't blame them. But that's going to be fun. That'll be at 11:30. We'll talk Predators. In this first segment, we had some fun on the text line yesterday, but if anybody wants to vent, either by phone or by text, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com, I want you to do so at 615-737-1025. 615-737-1025. If you want to vent about the brackets, if Kentucky screwed you, then let's hear it. Did you have them going? Is that why you're so angry? Or
it's not that
because
I'm angry.
I had them
I
should be the one mad at Kentucky.
I had them going. I think I had them.
I had them going to the finals.
The Elite Eight, I think, because I thought their bracket, it's not as tough. They should get to the elite, at least the Elite Eight. But I was worried about the first game. But I figured I'm worried about it. But Coach Cal, they're going to pull it out. They're just a better team. Well, joke's on you, Jack.
No question. Now, here's what I will say about what Cal referenced there. Because I did say this earlier in the week, and I didn't listen to myself when I filled out the bracket. Because I did say this about Kentucky earlier in the season. Coach Cal has tweaked his formula, but he still likes the young, top-level freshmen, one-and-done kind of guys. Now, Reeves is a guy that has transferred and is older, and he played well. And, look, I still think there should be a place. You should be able to win when you have great recruits who are freshmen, right, the one-and-done. But it's harder now than it ever has been, especially with the COVID rules, right? Because let's take a look at Jack Golke. I got a great text last night from Greg Ruff, the Gruff Dog, who is this longtime sports information guy down the street at Trevecca. So he gave me a little background on Jack Golke, who, as you mentioned, he has shot 375 three-pointers this year.
How many two-pointers?
8.
You don't need to tell me nothing else. I'll make sure he ain't guard. I'll make sure he ain't shooting a three-pointer.
So what did I say?
I'm doing that.
So this is what I said earlier this week. It is harder than ever to predict the tournament because you might have a night where you have a guy that has a game like that. And you have a lot more teams that have guys like Jack Golke, not only a three-point specialist and a really good one, but he is in his 6th year of college basketball. He's 24. He played for 5 seasons in Division II.
Hey, listen, he's a journeyman.
He went to a school that played against Trevecca a lot in Division II, and it's right in the backyard of Oakland. It's in the Detroit area. It's in Michigan. Hillsdale is the play. Have you heard of Hillsdale?
I've heard of Hillsdale, yes.
I had never heard of it, but they're in the league that Trevecca plays. He played 4 games against Trevecca the last 2 years. And Greg Ruff sent me his stats. 9 minutes per game. But in those 9 minutes, he shot 33s. So they should have consulted Trevecca for the scouting report. But he went 10 for 20 from 3. 10. Now, I sent you the clips. I didn't get to see the game. My son, Mahoney, was playing.
I was watching the game.
My son, Mahoney, was playing a baseball game, and I was trying to keep an eye on the Predators game, so I didn't get to see it. I listened to the stretch run on the radio of the upset, right, the final few minutes. But I went back and looked at the clips. Now, I have to give Kentucky a little bit of slack on this, okay? You saw the shots, D-Mase. Those weren't wide open threes. They left him wide open.
I know.
Those were insane. My coach, Eddie Folger, would have thrown me into the bleachers and locked me up and not let me back on the bench if I tried a couple of those shots. Like, he's fading away. He's coming sideways and jacking it up. That was amazing. The shots he was
But
hitting. That was not
what
bad
else
defense.
did you expect? The
I
guy
know, but that wasn't
only
bad
shot
defense.
eight two-pointers, Willie.
He's not going inside the line.
He's not going
in there.
He's not going. I am forcing you to take 2 pointers.
Right. But somehow he got 23s off, and he hit 10. That was still amazing. Now, they played against Michigan State.
Yeah.
I went back and looked because he had some other games where he hit a bunch of threes, but he went 1 for 10 from 3 against Michigan State. But this is the high and ride. This is the live by the sword, die by the sword of the three-point line. On a given night in a tournament where it's a one game, it's not a series, it's one game. If a guy has a game like that, you're screwed. If he's off that one game, we're not talking about this at all. Kentucky's fine. They're going to get through.
Well,
so it's sometimes you have to tip your cap a little bit to the guy. And so I know there's some people that are not buying that. I don't think that makes Kentucky.
I'm not buying it, Willie. I'm just like, listen, dude.
But let's give the guy some credit. Those were not like wide open. Let's pick up. We didn't get the scouting report. They were on him, and he hit some insane shots. Insane.
But listen.
We got people that are mad on the text line.
And I don't blame them for being mad.
Okay, let's get to Nate first.
Okay.
Nate is a suffering UK fan and wants to vent.
And I feel sorry for Nate.
Nate, did Derek make you feel better with his rant, or do you need to get some things off your chest here?
Guys, let me tell you, I just got back in my car and turned the radio on, and I hear Derek just what I thought, just dogging Kentucky. And my blood started. And I like Derek. I love you guys. But I was starting to get fired up, just getting defensive about my Cats. And then he turned on Cal and said, this is the problem. And then all of a sudden I was like, there you go, D-Mase. Get on him. Get on him. That's the problem right there. So I went from about to get fired up on D-Mase to agreeing with him 100%. I've said it for years. A great recruiter, a used car salesman, a snake oil salesman, whatever you want to say. The guy can recruit better than anybody, but my goodness, his X's and O's, I used to say all the way back in Stallings days, I said I'd rather have Stallings than Cal coaching my team, period. But that being said, the one good thing about this, he has trained us Kentucky fans on how to get over it a little bit quicker, unfortunately, after these losses. So now we're educated on how we're supposed to do that. Unfortunately for me, I was with some buddies at Buffalo Wild Wings in Mount Juliet last night, and, man, the Tennessee fans started cheering about halfway through that second half. They said, oh, here we go. Here we go. And I told my guys, I said, all right, if we lose this one, I'm going to just put my head down and walk out of here. But if somehow we pull this out, which I knew we weren't going to because I've watched it too long. I said, if we pull this out, everybody in here is going to know what I think about it. But It's part of being a fan. That's part of being a fan. But it's time for him to go. It's time for him to go.
Okay.
Well, thank you. Thank you, Nate. We appreciate it.
Right.
And any other Kentucky fans, I know there
we got
a bunch of y'all
we got a bunch
here listening here in the Nashville area. Call in, text in, 737-1025. Vent, do whatever you need to do because, listen, I'm not going to put this so much on the players, even though they shot horrendous from the three-point line, and I mean horrendous. But what it boils down to is because the common denominator each year that Kentucky doesn't advance far in the tournament or get put out extra early or get defeated by a team they should beat, the common denominator isn't the players, it's Coach Cal. Coach Cal is a hell of a recruiter, probably a great guy, hell of a recruiter. But it just seems like when the game gets big, he can't get his guys to rally. Oakland was in control of that game from start to finish. It wasn't like Kentucky got up 15, 20 points, kind of put their feet on the gas a little bit or took the feet off the gas or put a foot on the brake a little bit. No, it wasn't like that. Oakland dominated from start to finish. And the only reason I bring this up and I'm passionate about it because this is a good team. Coach Cal is a good coach, well, good recruiter.
Yeah.
But he's only got the job done once. And we talk about him as if he's one of the greatest coaches of all time. Okay, and he hasn't proven it.
But let me play devil's advocate for 1 second, okay? But let me go back to my theory that You live by the sword, die by the sword,
Yeah.
the three-point line. So Goalkey goes 10 for 20, but the rest of the team chips in too. They go 15 for 31 from 3. That's just not going to happen every night. It does in the NCAA tournament. I don't think you can just say, like I said, like my theory anyway, from looking at the highlights, that was not all bad defense by Kentucky. Those are some incredible shots. And on the other side, Reed Shepherd and Dillingham, 2 young players, right, who had some awesome games during the season. Those guys were great. They go a combined 3 for 14 from the field. Is that Cal's fault? I don't think that's Cal's fault, unless you want to say, well, you shouldn't be playing and relying so much on freshmen. Dillingham and Shepherd were incredible during the season.
But I understand that.
But they had the bad game on a bad night, and you lose to a 14. I just don't know.
But it happens every year with Cal.
Not every year. They've lost in the first round twice. What the St. Peter's and now.
But what I'm saying is Coach
They've made
Cal,
some unexpected runs in the tournament, too.
Exactly. But Coach Cal, with the teams that he's had over the years, the recruiting classes that he's built up over the years, for him to exit the tournament in the fashion that he does, it's unacceptable. It has to be. But I think Nate was right. He's gotten the UK fans to buy into it'll be okay. We'll be back here again. We'll get it done. I'll go get another 5-star recruit or another top 5 recruiting class. We'll be back here again, and we'll knock it through the next time.
But
and the next time ends up being the next time.
Right. He's never had great X's and O's. I'll give the fans that for sure. Goalkey. I was reading about him this morning. You know who was in his recruiting class? This is when he came out of high school. This is how long it's been.
What was it Anthony Edwards?
The top recruit in America that year.
Was it Anthony Edwards?
Zion Williamson.
Zion Williamson, okay.
So he's still playing college basketball.
And Zion is what, 3
Zion
years?
hadn't played college basketball in a while. Okay?
Well, Zion left a year.
He played 1 year. He
one
played
year.
1 year.
So,
but just to kind of put it, like he's the same age as Zion Williamson, and he's still playing college basketball. So Cal's whole thing about one and dones, get me the best recruits, that's how he got going. That's how he energized Kentucky's program.
To change his philosophy.
He probably needs to tweak it a little bit more, is what I would probably say. And here on the text line, Anthony says, the common denominator, 18-year-old kids with no experience and off nights. This isn't on Cal. Okay, so we have a defender of Cal. Let's see what else we got here. Let him recruit, and I could lose in the first round every year for less. I'm not sure I understand. I follow that. I think NIL is and will ruin college sports. Everyone knows every school has a big bucks donor who has a say in the aspects of the sports teams. What do you think the collective's role will be going forward? If I were giving hundreds of thousands of dollars to pay athletes exorbitant salaries, I would be upset with underperformance by these athletes, such as the Vols loss in the SEC tournament, Kentucky's one and done. Will the collective have any input concerning the coaches? I've never heard anyone speculate on this. Well, I've heard somebody speculate on it. Nick Saban. I think he's probably looked at this and said, this isn't for me. And I think there's a lot of coaches that are not looking forward to this part of it. I would imagine at Kentucky that probably is in the equation somewhere, and probably everywhere, right? If you're saying I'm paying for this kid to play for our school, I want to see him play. Like, forget about whether he plays well in a game or not. You know, I'm sure some people are irrational in saying if he's not playing well, I'm taking my money back or something like that. But if you're reasonable, you would say, look, he's going to have good games and bad games. But if he's not playing, right, if you're paying, let's say, $200,000 for a kid out of the collective, and he's not getting as much playing time as you like what kind of pressure could that put on a coach if you let your opinion be known? You know what I mean? It's like the parent that you don't want to be that parent that talks to the coach and say, my son's not playing as much as I think he should be playing. Like, you don't want to be that guy.
No.
But sometimes if you're paying a lot of money and all the travel, it's something that comes up, right? And the coach has to take it. That didn't used to have to happen.
No.
Right?
No, but I mean,
now you have to. It's not just the parents; it's the collective. They're telling you, we're paying this guy $200,000. Why isn't he playing? That's just something the coach didn't used to have to deal with.
Of course, there are a lot of other things that you have to deal with as a head coach nowadays. Whether it's It's basketball, football, baseball, lacrosse, whatever. You got to deal with it. But it doesn't exempt him from, criticism or anything else. Your number one job is to win basketball games, Coach Cal. That's your number one job. And in the last 3 years, you've got put out first round, round of 32, first round.
Yeah.
You got two first round eliminations in 3 years. And then the year 2021, you didn't make it.
Didn't make the tournament, yeah.
So you've had 4 years of disappointment.
Yeah,
4 years.
The formula has changed in those 4 years with the COVID, the older players, the transfer rules, and now the NIL. Gene texts in, I love the NCAA Thursday and Friday. Despite how you stack your teams, one-and-dones, transfers, give me 3 to 5 seniors versus your stacked team in one game with good officials and a good coach.
Okay.
And I'll take my chances.
That
is true.
Yeah.
That is true. All right, let's get one more call, then we'll get to D-Mase and switch gears, talk Preds. We'll talk brackets throughout the day. They're underway. Florida Atlantic versus Northwestern, the 8 versus 9. Northwestern's been a great story this year. Florida Atlantic, of course, went to the Final Four last year as a lower seed than they are this year. All right, let's go to Murray. He wants to talk Kentucky here. Murray, welcome to the show. Are you in Murray, Kentucky, or your name is Murray?
No, your name's Murray.
Okay.
I was just going to say that Kentucky's like the Dallas Cowboys, man. They perform well during the season, and then fans get hyped, and then they lay a big egg once it gets tournament time.
Yeah, I can see that. I understand. And then Coach Cal is kind of like Dak Prescott and Romo rolled together. So he's Kentucky's version of the Cowboys, Romo and Dak Prescott. That once you get in a tournament, you just lose the ability how to play the game in crucial times.
Yeah, but let me ask you something. Y'all were talking about the X's and O's with Cal, and there's not a whole lot of coaches out there that I think are great with the X's and O's, but one is Stackhouse. Jerry Stackhouse was incredible with the X's and O's, I thought, for the talent that he had when it came out of timeouts or whatever. With the X's and O's, I just think that Stackhouse is good, and then when it comes to the recruiting, Cal is good. I wonder if they can't pair up and do something.
Put them both on the same staff.
It's actually, I thought there was some mutual respect back and forth. I do think there's something to that. Like the big weakness for Stackhouse is probably Cal's strength, and then vice versa, right?
Yeah.
Cal's not great X's. I do think Stackhouse underrated with the X's and O's. Very, very good stuff. Jacob from Murfreesboro. Why is Willie making so many excuses for Calipari? They've won one SEC tournament game and one NCAA tournament game since 2019. The one-and-done recruiting style is no longer a strategy for winning in March. And regarding last night's game, how on earth do you let that guy attempt 23s? Say what you will about Rick Barnes in March. He would never let a guy like that attempt anywhere close to that many threes. As a Vol fan, I'd love Calipari to stay in Lexington forever, but it's time for them to move on from him.
Listen, I'm not asking for Cal to be fired. I'm not. I really am not.
I'm not making excuses for him. I'm just trying to point out
if
you look at those threes, those were not ordinary threes. Mm-hmm. Those were not, hey, I forgot this guy could shoot or I lost my man. That guy was hitting some very difficult threes.
But you know what that comes down to, Willie? That team, that Kentucky team, plus Coach Cal, they have not played any defense all year. They haven't. Now, they may have shown up a few games here and there, but for the most part, they don't play defense. And it showed, the first round against Oakland. I know that they were, that some of those shots were difficult, but just like the texter or the caller said, listen, a Rick Barnes team would have beat you up before they let you take that many three-pointers.
Yeah.
They'd have beat you up going through the picks and everything else and the screens. They would have beat you up enough that by the time you got to three-pointer number 11, your arms is going to be tired.
Yeah, and they have an older team that I think is better at that kind of thing. I agree. Final text, and then we'll move on to D-Mase. Thank you, Willie. This is from Anthony on our text line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. I've been going to Rupp since I was 6 years old. These fans in the moment are overreacting. The grass isn't greener. Cal brings the best talent. They're young, and any night could be our night, but not our night. I don't blame Cal, and if he's gone, I'll be sicker about that than I was last night when we lost. So a Cal defender.
See? Just like
a rational Kentucky fan.
Like just like Cowboy fans. They always think the next year's their year. And they always, don't worry, little Cal. We'll be fine. Don't worry, Kentucky fans. We'll be fine. Let's just get the next season. We'll get us some more recruits. We'll be okay. Stroke them on the back. Don't worry about it. And y'all keep up ending. Y'all end up just like y'all did this season, just like the Cowboys do every season.
I will say,
damn, we almost made it.
I will say, as a Vanderbilt graduate, former player for Vanderbilt, it is fun to beat Kentucky. It is fun to watch because they have amazing fans.
Yes.
Like not just good.
Yeah, Kentucky fans are great. I'm not going to say they're not,
but it is kind of fun to watch them disappointingly walk out of the arena when your team has won, and you have to hold your tongue a little bit because.
But you should see the face, and I know we got to get to a break. I know it, but the face, the expressions of Cal, the expressions of Kentucky fans when they're watching that exact moment where they know the game is over with, the expression on their face, wow.
Because they think they're supposed to win every game, and that's why you want to beat them so bad, is because you think you're just showing up. The other team's supposed to just show up and roll over, and Kentucky's supposed to beat you just because they're taking over this gym, and we're supposed to beat you because their name says Kentucky on the jersey.
Exactly.
So that's fun to beat those guys.
Absolutely.
It was fun for Oakland last night, I can tell you that. All right, when we come back, D-Mase joins us, and we'll talk Predators. 16 games, 14-0-2, the point streak, an all-time record for the franchise. They mowed down the Florida Panthers last night in their own building, 3-0. It wasn't close. We'll talk about it when we come back.
Shot broken up in front, and what a slick backhand try right in front of Chris Mason. And now the quick pass down the middle, breaking in, and the backhand stopped by Chris Mason. And Marlowe with a 2-on-1, a 3-on-1, and what a stop by Mason. Cheechoo right in front, and what a stop on Ekman by Mason.
And goal, number 3, Chris Mason.
Oh, you got to be ready. It's March Madness. We've got all kinds of stuff going on. Northwestern 6, Florida Atlantic 6, 8 minutes in to the first game of this Friday of the NCAA tournament. No way anybody's getting anything done today work-wise. Everybody is fired up to watch the games. And if you're a Predator fan, you are on high right now because this team continues to buzz. A tremendous win last night in Florida against one of the favorites to win the Stanley Cup. You ask a lot of experts, they will name Florida as the favorite to come out of the East. Elliot Friedman said that yesterday on our show. And they were no match for the Predators last night. 19,780 down there. And not all of them were there at the end because Nashville took the air out of the balloon and beat them 3-0. Chris Mason joins us here on the show. Mace, what's going on?
Yo, not much, man. Just, as you said, just enjoying the day and the aftermath of another great game by the Preds.
So do you agree with me? There's not going to be a whole lot of productivity today in the workplace.
No, I think so. I think there's a lot to be distracted about today for sure.
And you got the Wings coming in tomorrow, which is going to be a really, really special atmosphere. Not the chicken wings. We're talking about the Red Wings. And, Mace, you remember the days where they would bring droves and droves of fans. I'm curious about tomorrow because the Predator fans are jacked up, but I think you're going to have just enough Red Wing fans who are excited about their season because it's been so long since they have had a really good team. It's really amazing for their fans. It used to be kind of the ones with Kentucky, right? We were just talking about Kentucky basketball, Mace. Wouldn't you say for a while Detroit kind of had that fan base that was kind of arrogant, like we're supposed to win, we've got all these great players, you guys just kind of move aside and let us come through and take over your building. And that's what made that early rivalry so great.
Yeah, I mean, I think they were the standard. And I know if you ask Trotsy, I think that was kind of what teams aspired to be, especially when the Predators came in the league. The Red Wings were, in the middle of a dynasty. And, you kind of wanted to, that was the gold standard, if you will. And I think that, naturally, our fan base and the rivalry that we had with them, that we, I guess, self kind of created just, was the David and Goliath days back then. But it was a lot of fun playing those games. It's like, all right, let's give, everything we have to fight these guys and get as close as we can. And a lot of heartbreak, a lot of beat downs. And, it was a great, I think, building, thing for the franchise just to have that rivalry and to and the kind of crescendo of the things when you finally Nashville finally beat them in the playoffs and it was awesome. I just think it was really cool. With this, you think of all those guys, man. I hated those guys on that team. They were they were just so good, but you respected the heck out of them. And now they're in a different situation. They're fighting for their playoff lives. So we're gonna have a desperate Detroit team come in here tomorrow for sure.
So one of the great players on those early Red Wings teams was Steve Yzerman, who now is their GM. He's taken a very patient approach, and the fans are showing as much patience as they can, but they really want to get back to the playoffs now. And it's been, I have to go back and look, but I think it's been 7 seasons since they've made the playoffs. Now think about that hockey market and contrast it to what you were saying about what we just talked about with that dynasty type of team of the late 90s and then on through the mid-2000s. So they are going to be hungry. I think this is going to be a great test tomorrow.
It'll be a great test, but I think that also puts in perspective what it takes to go through a full rebuild. You got to tear it all right down to the screws and start over. And there's going to be a lot of losing. You see Chicago's going through it, Anaheim's going through it, San Jose. There's teams that they tore it all down and they're going to start from scratch. And build it back up. It takes a while, but you look at Detroit. They added at they made some big off-season acquisitions. Patrick Kane, this season they signed him. It's time for them to go back in. They think they have a good team. They think they can compete. They think they can be one of those, dark horse teams if they get in. So it'll be interesting to see. They went through some tough times here recently, fighting in practice, and lost, I don't know how many in a row, 7 in a row or something like that when they were they had a good, kind of hold on the wild card. And it's going to be, this is, a situation. I think, you saw Nashville's desperation at the start of this streak that they're on. I think you're going to see that from the Red Wings.
We'll talk with C-Mase, Chris Mason, one half of the Nashville Predators television broadcasting team. Unfortunately, C-Mase, I would have loved to see you guys call a game last night, you and Willy. But, they got the win, so it doesn't matter. We'll see you guys this weekend. Are you guys calling a game this weekend, Willy?
Yes, thank goodness.
Okay, good. So I
I
can
start
watch
to go
it.
through withdrawal if we had 2 in a row. That doesn't work for me.
Now, Lankinen is turning out to be sort of the road warrior for the Nashville Predators. Were you surprised that Coach Bruno put him in net, considering who the team was, the Florida Panthers? And what do you think of his game last night? Because he put up a shutout against a very good Florida Panther team.
Yeah, that's a great question, because actually Willie and I were talking about it, and Jacob Underwood as well. We have our group text chain going, and we expected. I expected this to be a Lankinen start. I just think that there's zero hesitation for the coaching staff to put him in a game of this magnitude against an opponent that good. And Willie's tweet on X or Twitter, whatever it's called now, illustrates kind of his road and the the level of competition that he's played and succeeded against. It's beyond impressive. It really is. And I've been in that position a lot during my career, being a backup goalie and not playing for a couple weeks. And usually you get the crappy games, the second game of back-to-back or whatever, kind of a game that you want to rest Saros, things could go south or whatever the situation is. They just have so much confidence in Lankinen, and he's proven it over and over and over and over again. And to look as good and as calm as he does without having playing a game in the last couple weeks at a time, it is just such a testament to his preparation, the way that he competes in practice, the way that he prepares every game, and just his mental strength to be, to get to that point in the zone or whatever, and to perform like he is. It's just been remarkable how solid and how good he's been in the net in those situations. I just can't really, put a value on that, because, without Lankinen at certain points of the season, who knows? You're talking about, everyone's the backup goalie, but every game they play, they're the starter. And those 2 points are just as valuable as any other 2 points. And he has just been awesome this year, and deserves a heck of a lot of credit for what he's done for the team this season.
Now, a quick question here. Well, 2 of them here. You just spoke about Lankinen and his ability to come in and play really good hockey and be a force in net. Obviously, we know what UC is able to do. Do they have the best 1-2 combination of goalies in the National Hockey League?
You could make an argument for it. There's no question. I thought last year, I thought we saw that. For Bruno and for the coaching staff to have the confidence to play Lankinen in the games that he's played in, I feel there was a point in the season where Juice is really struggling, and there's the back-to-backs coming up, and I feel because Lankinen played so well and they had that much confidence, they were able to, maybe more methodically choose the games that they were going to give Lankinen in order to kind of help Juice get his game going, against some top-level opponents on the first half of a back-to-back, which is rare to do, to start the backup goalie in those situations. And I feel obviously now we know Saros's ceiling when he gets to it, right? We talked about it quite a bit this year, on this segment about where he's at and the up and downs that he's had this year. But now he's on that up. He's on that point that we all, expected him to get to maybe a little sooner than he did this season, but he's there now. And the ability to have a 1-2 punch like this, I mean, I remember a couple of years ago when Juice got hurt at the end of the year and they had to go to Ingram. He had the one amazing game, and the goaltending situation there, there wasn't a lot of confidence going into that series against Colorado. Now's a different story. God forbid anything happens, to one of the goalies. You have another 1A goalie. You have confidence in who you're going to be putting in the net, and I think, right now it's a great problem to have, and it just seems everything's clicking with this team. And to me, it really does start with goaltending, and from there on out, it's been just fantastic.
Now, Yossi, he's been playing lights out as of lately. Arguably playing the best at his position than anybody else in hockey. Do you think he has a chance to win the Hart, or do you think that because of the way the first half of the season started, he sort of put himself behind the 8 ball? He's up there, but the likelihood of him winning it is not as good as some of the other guys that have been playing well all season.
Yeah. I'm going to be completely honest. I think that's the case. I think that he really did put himself. The situation's put behind the 8 ball.
Exactly.
Everybody wants to declare award winners in the first month of the season just because, this guy got off to a good start. He's the Norris. And it's a lot harder to get steam with the narrative if it's the second half that you excel. We've been through this, in Pekka's Vezina year, and it's really tough because there's a narrative already out there, and it's hard to change it. But you just have to keep driving home the numbers. I think there's no question that he deserves to be in that conversation and nominated for the award with what he's done. It's a special season, and we see it every single night. I just got a call yesterday from Mike Rupp from NHL Network. They're starting to talk about, he wanted to get some details on, hey, what's fill me in, what's going on here. I gave as much detail as I could. So he's starting to get that steam going, but it's going to be really hard, in my opinion, for him to win this award. That's why we got to keep telling the people. So they're starting to listen, but we got to keep hammering that point down, because he's just been. It's just unbelievable what he's doing right now, and we take it for granted, I think, sometimes because we see it every night. But his consistency, McDonough said the other day, it's just he has this obviously offensive skill set that he can take over games offensively, but it's not at the cost of his defensive play. And to me, that's the full package. Is the Norris Trophy is all the intangibles. Yes, you need the offense. Yes, every player that wins it is an offensively gifted player. But the defensive side of things, I think that's where Yossi really excels and could have some separation from, some of the other top guys. Victor Hedman aside, I think is equally good defensively. But, Makar and Quinn Hughes, I think, Yossi excels in that department compared to those two guys.
And I meant the Norris, not the Hart.
But you said the Hart for good reason, because, and this is where C-Mase, I got to clarify my Maces, right? But C-Mase knows, and I've learned this as well, that the narrative, what other people who are out and in big circles like Elliott, like he mentioned Mike Rupp on NHL Network, guys who watch the whole league, what they think is important. It influences some of the voters. It's just how it works. It's like the Heisman Trophy, right? So it was interesting. The Norris Trophy, I think he's gaining a lot of steam. Mm-hmm. Now Elliott introduced yesterday about somebody came up to him at the GM's meeting and said he should be talked about with the Hart Trophy. I think that's why you asked Hart Trophy, because that's the MVP of the league.
Exactly.
But to me, it's almost like a mixed bag, C-Mase, because let's just concentrate on the Norris. Because realistically, I think it's a great compliment that guy gave Elliott. But at the same time, for narrative purposes, I want people to focus on the Norris.
Yes.
You think that's – I mean, I feel like that's the way to go.
Yeah, I think that, if you look at the Hart Trophy, it's probably going to be Kucherov or McKinnon. Again, it's always an offensive player that wins that award, and it's really hard to quantify a player's value to his team in an individual situation, because if we don't have Roman Josi, you could argue he's by far our most valuable player this season. There's been other seasons where it's Saros, and comparing that to Nathan McKinnon, who scores 200 points, or Kucherov, these guys are going toe to toe with that race. And how do you say their value is more than Yossi's just because they're, they have, more scoring or more points or whatever. But the Norris is the one I think that he has the best chance of winning or being part of the conversation or being nominated. I still think it's going to be really hard, but that doesn't mean we're not going to stop, telling the story of how incredible his season is, because he deserves it. We see it every night. I see those other guys. They're great players. They're having, remarkable seasons as well. But what Roman Josi is doing, and if you cut it, the start that you mentioned, D-Mase, I think that's the big thing that may be holding him back, because nobody was talking about him in the first half. He started picking up steam. He's like, we all know Roman Josi's a good player. He's top 10 defenseman, blah, 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 whatever you want to say. And then now it's on another level. He is just blowing the competition away. So if you look at it in its entirety, which is hard to get people to look at now, and when they've already had their mind made up, halfway through the season, but we're going to keep going and hopefully people start listening.
All right, C-Mace, do you have time to sit through the break and have 5 minutes on the other side? We would love to ask you about this line contest. Name the line that we had earlier this week, because I know this is important to you and I, because we're on the broadcast. We have to kind of decide, do we go with this or not? Do you have time?
I would love to. I have a submission too, a late submission.
Oh, okay.
So
C-Mace has a submission. Okay. All right, when we come back, we're going to figure out this. They had another really good game last night. They didn't score, but Sherwood, McCarron, and Smith, really good numbers, again, doing their thing, and they make the league minimum. But they really bring the energy. We'll talk about it when we come back. Stay tuned. All right. Nick Frazier. I guess he switched from the food-themed nickname to The Price is Right.
I like it.
I'm a big Price is Right guy.
Price
As a
is Right
kid, I
is
watched it
Great
almost
game
every
show
day.
theme. Yes, no question. A classic. So we got into this whole thing. Chris Mason's still with us, talking Predators, and he's been listening to this and following this. I've been keeping him up to speed on what we've been doing. We threw out this contest the other day for tickets. Name this line, because Mason and I just keep coming up with different things. We can't come up with something that sticks. That line, there goes that line again. Kiefer Sherwood, Michael McCarron, Cole Smith. They all make basically the league minimum. They're really driving the team from the fourth line. They're the starting lineup, right? They go out there and they just set the energy level. They ignite. They inspire everybody. The crowd's really getting into it with these guys. And we think it's worthy of a nickname for the line. We don't throw that out lightly. Remember, despite Chase coming in and going, why does everybody want to name a line?
Exactly.
Just rained on the parade.
They deserve a line.
Yeah.
They deserve a name.
I think
this
they do
line
deserve a
does.
name. All right, so C-Mace, you've heard some of the ones that have surfaced here, but so give me your thoughts on this.
Well, I love it, and I do think they've been together long enough. They've made such a huge impact on this team and their situation. So I think it has to be done justice. It can't just be any name. So a lot of thought, and I think you have to take it to them and see if they like whatever the name or you get it down to a couple and get their approval on it. And I think once they sign off, then it's go time. I just think it's good. We'll get the shirts made and we'll do all the stuff. But
We just need the name. Y'all to get everything else made.
Here's my submission, and there's already shirts made because this is a brand, and I believe it was hockey players that started this brand, I think. But it is Violent Gentleman.
The Violent Gentleman.
The Violent Gentleman.
Violet Gentleman.
Yeah.
The Violent Gentleman line. VGL.
Oh,
The
VGL.
The Violet Gentleman line. Because just so, and this has happened before, C-Mace, our colleague, so you and I didn't get to do the game last night, Hal.
Yes, Hal.
Skillsy on the radio, he threw out meat and
Meat and potatoes again.
Because after the game on Tuesday, when Kara was asking Kiefer Sherwood, what is it about the line? He goes, we're kind of meat and potatoes. And this was right after Penalty Box Radio did present them with a bunch of the submissions. And you could tell none of them really stuck with any of the three of them. So you could tell Kiefer maybe was thinking along those lines a little bit there. So meat and potatoes has already been thrown out there, so the radio is one step ahead of us here.
Yeah, but that seemed like a hefty line, like a beefy
Meat
line.
and potatoes is
Yeah.
like a duo. Like meat and potatoes,
I
like
know.
two people. We got three people, so I'm not sure.
So
it
meat,
quite
potatoes,
fits.
and hot dogs.
Can't
Meat,
forget about
potatoes,
biscuits
and
and
pork and
gravy.
beans.
The biscuits
Who's
and
going to be
gravy.
the hot dog? Who's gonna, we know apparently Cole Smith is the meat. He's a big meat eater. Maybe McCarron's the potatoes, but I don't think Sherwood wants to be the hot dog.
Yeah.
We can work on it. I do like meat and potatoes, though. I think Lindsay threw that out there after she heard that in the interview with Kara. So that's kind of a good one, but it's got to be. We got to get it right. Like the herd line that was Kara Hammers. Yeah, that was just perfect, right? But now it's down to it. So I think we got to take it to them. And Sherwood said he wants something with energy, and they get in there and they hit people and they do their thing, their work ethic and all that. So we gotta get this right.
All right, the one that got the most steam on our show was a little bit of the Dolly Parton theme, the 9 to 5ers. The working line to 5. There's just kind of some variations, right?
Yeah.
The 95ers, they're all born in 1995, all three of them.
The
So
Lake
I thought that was
Boys.
interesting. Yeah, so what about the 9 to 5ers, Mace? Thumbs up, thumbs down.
I'm out. On
You're
that.
out on that one.
I like
Okay.
it. I think it's creative. I think actually all the ones that people have submitted I thought were good, but I just to be the one, the name that's decided on, I'm out.
All right, D-Mase said that the Lake Boys,
The Lake
they're all
Boys.
from Lake states, right?
that
Ohio,
border the
Michigan,
lake.
Minnesota. Yeah,
Yeah, I think I like that. I think we need a little more flair on
a
it.
little more pizzazz. The lumber
Little more
line.
like something like the energy or I don't know, something like that with the Lake Boys, like I don't know, Electric Lake Boys, something that's not that, but along. It's got to have a little more jam.
What about the lumber line?
The lumber line, don't hate it. Don't hate it. That's
We're trying to figure out
mine now.
how. I guess
Those guys could all pass as lumberjacks.
how
I think.
it would. I guess you got to envision it on a shirt or a hat, and if you can
Yeah.
envision it on a shirt and a hat, then that's the
Yeah.
name.
Okay.
Yeah. I like that, and then we can market it, and then we'll copyright it and all that
There
kind of
you
stuff.
go.
We'll do the things. We'll do the things.
The discount dogs, like dog as DAWG and
Yeah.
not DOG, because they all make the league minimum. I like that blue collar,
Yeah.
like we had to work our way up. I do like that, embodying them.
We could just call them the Postal Service. There you go.
What about bang for your buck line? The bang for your buck.
That wouldn't look good on a shirt.
Average? No.
Yeah, average.
The Broadway bouncers,
average.
you could get all black shirts and then you just put, the
I like
abbreviation.
that. I could see that on a shirt.
It's not bad.
All three of them standing in front of Bridgestone. I like that one, Nick.
Elliot Friedman
bangers?
submitted the minimizers because they're minimizing the opposition and they make the league minimum. Not a bad attempt.
I don't. Those ones to me though, they're like I don't like a minimum discount.
Yeah.
It's taking them down a level where they're they're above it. It's got to be superhero esque.
I gotcha. That's,
You know
that's
what
a
I mean?
good point.
Like
It's a good
the
point.
minimizers. Yeah. Hey, guess what do you guys do? We're gonna go minimize the other team.
Yeah. What about the old fashioned? You jam the three names together and you get Smackwood.
Not bad, but not
Not a
good
keeper.
and creative. I like that, but not a keeper.
Okay, so I think we've agreed. It's still a
Yeah.
work in progress.
Yeah, it's still a work
in
We'll
progress.
have it.
We haven't found it yet.
We're still
It's gotta happen
workshopping. We're
organically.
still workshopping.
Yeah, but there's a lot of good. Now we have, when you get into and you start brainstorming, now there's a lot of good different areas to pull from and suggestions, I think.
Okay, we got the themes. We're still working on it. C-Mace, we'll see you tomorrow in Smashville, and I hope a lot of people are there. This needs to be the best atmosphere of the season. This team deserves to have the kind of following. And then Tuesday against Vegas, wow, that's going to be awesome as well.
Now
So-
they're in the city. They got something to play for, right? They're in a desperate situation. Fans have been amazing. Let's pack the barn the rest of the way.
All right, C-Mace, we'll talk to you soon.
Okay, see you guys.
All right, excellent stuff. Stay tuned. We've got hour number 2. We'll get you a scoreboard update. Day 2 of the big brackets day going on. Florida Atlantic leading Northwestern 18-16. And a couple of other games are getting underway as well. We'll update you on those. Stay tuned. We're coming back with hour number 2. Hour number 2, Caroline, Willy, and D-Mase coming at you today on this Friday. We are having a blast on this thing, and we are broadcasting live, of course, from the Game Nashville studios, brought to you by the Spring Hill Heating and Cooling, keeping your home feeling comfortable all year round. Tune into 94.9 The Fan this Sunday for coverage of the Echo Park Automotive Grand Prix, by the way. Got all kinds of March Madness going on. We've got kind of a rough half going on between Northwestern and FAU.
It's bad.
It's halftime, and they can't throw it in the ocean, either team. It's 20-19 at the half. On pace for a 40-39 game, 40-38. I think it will pick up some in the second half. Two good teams, but not shooting the ball very well. You do see that sometimes. Baylor leading Colgate 29-19. I like Baylor. I think they're fun to watch. They can shoot it. Of course, it's all about, are you making the shots in the biggest games of the year? We'll see if Colgate can hang around in that one. And getting set to get underway, San Diego State against UAB here in the next half hour. Western Kentucky. Oh, yeah. Everybody in the Commonwealth jumping on Western's bandwagon now. That Kentucky's out. Western has got Marquette. And that one going on up in, I believe, Indianapolis is where they're playing that game. So a bunch of games coming on later today. They'll be on all day. We'll keep you up to date here on 102.5 The Game. All right, D-Mase, we lit a fire again. The text line's going nuts. We got people on the line. They want to name this team. They want to name this trio, Sherwood, Smith, and Michael McCarron. McCarron is from Michigan, so this will be a special game for him tomorrow. With the Red Wings coming into town. I mean, everybody from Michigan, you know it.
Yes.
They love the Wings. Like they grew up loving the Wings, the legendary Wings. So that would be something special. Not the Hot Wings.
Even though they love those.
Okay, so we have several submissions here. Let's let Warren get the first shot here.
All right.
You heard C-Mase put in there. What did he have?
What did C-Mase have? Nick, you know what C-Mase had?
The Violent Gentleman.
Yeah,
the Violent Gentleman.
Line. So
the
VGL.
Violent Gentleman.
VGL.
The VGL. Yeah. Okay. We got to write all these down just because you never know when it's going to hit you here. Now, let's see what Warren's got. Warren, welcome to the show. You're on 102.5 The Game. By the way, we got to give away some tickets to Tuesday's game. We've got a couple pairs to give you away. We're going to do a little trivia for this today. And let's see if we can get some people jamming it in there on Tuesday night, because I want a great atmosphere for that one. The Vegas Golden Knights, defending Stanley Cup champions. Nashville's ahead of them in the standings right now. That's a huge game. Warren, welcome in. You got a name for this line?
Yeah, Willie, you hear me?
We got you.
Yeah, it just hit me as I was listening to C-Mase. The text line.
The text line. Now, that was thrown out to them earlier because of SMS, right?
Yes.
SMS.
Yeah.
Okay. I hadn't heard that.
That's a good one. That's a good one. And I feel like that Penalty Box Radio submitted that to the trio.
Yes.
And I feel like we listened to the response. They were like, okay, I haven't thought about that, but
it was a good.
It's a good idea.
Yeah, they let they sort of kind of put that name on a back burner in a nice way. Like,
that's kind of how I felt.
That sounds good.
Yeah. That's a good one though. Dustin in Hopkinsville, Kentucky, the DoorDash line. They're going places.
DDL.
Get in. They're going places. The DoorDash line. Oh, okay. What else we got? We got Ben. Ben, welcome to the show. You're on 102.5 The Game. You got a line name here. By the way, we got Ask D-Mase coming up at the bottom of there. We got some football topics we're going to hit with him, and then whatever you guys want to ask him. But Ben, what do you have? Do you have a line name here?
I do. I grew up in a rodeo town, and I thought of the Bulldoggers, which is another name for steer wrestling, but it also means to attack viciously.
The Bulldoggers.
Bulldoggers?
Yes.
The Bulldoggers. Okay. To attack viciously. Well, they've been attacking
BDL.
The Bulldogger line?
The Bulldogger line. The Bulldog line.
B-Man says the meat and two.
The meat and three or the meat and two?
Instead of the meat and three, the meat and two. Okay. Bulldoggers.
Meat and two.
I would like to think that when we get the line, it's just going to hit and everybody's going to say, that's the one, right?
Yeah. I'm still leaning toward Broadway Bouncers. I'm leaning
The
toward
Broadway Bouncers.
Yeah, I like that name.
I
Because
think-
Nick and I, we've already drawn it up. We've already got the shirts.
I'm mocking it up on my
Yeah.
computer as we speak.
You brought in the something that we had not considered earlier in the week, the merchandise possibility
Yeah.
here.
How does it look on merch, people? When you are, this is part of marketing, when you are thinking of a name, how will it then look as you are marketing it? Whether it be on a hat, T-shirt, billboard. Think big, people. Think big. You're walking down Broadway. You're coming up to Bridgestone. Think of the the Broadway Bouncers. Just think of that. Think of it.
Our phone
I
line
like that.
driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. You could submit at 615-737-1025. We have a new one, the Lunch Pail line, LPL. Okay.
Reminds me of LP Field. No, we don't need to go that route.
Let's see.
Wasn't the Titans wasn't it the LP Field or for a quick second there?
It was.
LP Field.
Yeah.
Yeah.
LP Field. That's a building product that would go
Yes.
with the lumber line, right? We have another texter from, quote, The Animal. So he's got a nickname. His name for this line is the Cumberland Tsunami.
It's
not bad.
I like
Here
that.
comes the tsunami from the Cumberland. It's a little long, but I like that. That's good.
Yeah, I
The
like
Cumberland Tsunami. Okay.
Cumberland Tsunami line. Okay, I like it.
Let's see. What else have we not said? The Bleep Kickers. Starts with an A.
The Absolute Kickers.
The Merry Men from Sherwood Forest.
Okay.
Kiefer Sherwood is.
Yeah. But that's
That makes
just
sense.
really
The Merry Men. It just
yeah, it's
doesn't
just really-
embody
yeah, it
how they
doesn't-
play.
Yeah.
But he does say they rob from the rich and give to the poor.
Okay.
Okay. We're on the right track.
But every team we play,
We got a second motion for Mead and two. Who's the Mead and who's the two?
Yeah, exactly.
The punchline: no laughing matter. They will punch you in the face.
I like
Okay.
that. The punchline. Big fist on the shirt.
Yeah.
Ah.
Boy, they're flying it now. The Broadway Punishers. I like Broadway Bruisers better.
Yeah. A fist on it on the front, Nick. A fist. And then on the back, you got all three of them standing up together, and it's, we'll punch you in the face.
George
that.
texts in. He likes the Broadway Bouncers, but he says it sounds too much like the Broad Street Bullies. It's kind of an
I get
offshoot
it.
of that.
I get it.
So he says, I'm going with the Salty Grits line.
Salty grits line.
Nick,
This is my kind of guy. Yeah.
anything with
Salty grits.
biscuits,
Give me any type
Hash
of food.
brown.
hash brown casserole.
Yeah,
Nick
you
is
know
a
how much
foodie.
I love about the hash
Yes,
brown
hash
casserole.
brown casserole line.
You had him at Grits. You
Yes.
had him at Grits.
You say grits, my eyes are open. Where's the plate at?
Okay, Broadway Bullies. We got some people voting for that. They said they like that Broadway Bullies.
Broadway Bullies or Broadway Bouncers. Broadway Bullies, I like it.
The Nash T Boys. The Nash T Boys instead of the Nasty Boys. the
I
Reds.
like that.
The Nash T Boys.
Nash T-Boys. I like that.
Let's see. The American Smashers line. It's unbelievable how this takes off. The Mayhem line. All I can think about is that guy on the tricycle from all the commercials you see every game that you watch
Man,
ever.
Yeah.
The Broadway Brutes. Okay. Man, they're coming in so fast I can't even read them all. All right. I still think we're workshopping here.
Yeah.
I still think we're workshopping.
Listen, we got a little time. We got a little time
Yeah.
to put together a name, and once we narrow it down, we could take it to the fellas. Well, Willy and D-Mase, and see what they think about it. Because I think whatever we come up with, I think they would be in agreement with it because it's going to be a really good name.
What was the one that I just threw out there with the grits? I honestly, we've gotten so many texts here, I can't even keep up. The Music City Menaces, but the Broadway Bullies
Is
good.
leading.
The Broadway Bullies or the Broadway Bouncers.
Bouncers or bullies? I mean, tomato. Which one you want?
All right.
You know.
Keep them coming.
Yes.
We promise we'll. If we don't read them on the air, we're still looking at all of these things. So we may have created a monster here, and let's just hope, number one, they keep playing the way they're playing, because that's the thing. That's
well,
really
you know,
something.
I think this line will. They are, even though, you know, last night that line didn't score any goals, but they still played extremely well.
You notice them. Like,
yeah,
they're not
exactly.
afraid. Andrew Burnett is not afraid to put them out there in a tough situation where they have to defend the top players for the other team. Like, that was what sometimes if you have the fourth line, as good as they might be at one area or fighting or hits, can they be a complete enough unit to where you can trust them in the defensive zone against good players? Because sometimes that's where those fourth liners can get exploited.
Exactly.
But that's what they've done a good job of. You have confidence that they can get by, even if they're playing against tomorrow, for example, Dylan Larkin's line. You know, they're one of their best players. That I think is what is separating them right now.
Now, Willie, can any and more than like, I know it will not happen unless there's injury, and we don't need any more injuries. Can any one of these guys play on a different line? Do they have the versatility to play on a different line?
That's a great question. I think maybe the third line on certain nights. And Kiefer Sherwood has, at times in his last couple of years, moved up to one of the top two lines, because sometimes you want that ingredient of just energy and hustle and puck battler with a couple of skilled guys. Sometimes that works. So for short periods of time, yeah, they could move up. But I think by and large, they probably fit. They're probably most effective where they are right now. It certainly has been the last 16 games. And they have been together this entire 16-game stretch, those three guys. Before that, Kiefer Sherwood was going through a period where he's kind of in and out of the lineup. He was in a slump. Okay, so let's give you another before we go to Ask D-Mase, there's one topic we wanted to hit, because a name from the Titans, and by the way, they're still rolling in here on the text line here, but a name that was kind of like, when you threw his name out there, everybody's like, oh boy, here's that name again. So it elicited a lot of frustration because he was a high pick, not a first rounder, but a guy that they counted on a lot, and he just never really got right. I'm really curious where this guy's career goes in the coming years, and that's Christian Fulton, who just signed a 1-year deal with the Chargers. Brand new coach, brand new era out there. What did you think of that when you saw the Chargers was the next spot for Christian Fulton?
For one, I thought he needed a change of scenery. You know, after speaking with, you know, TD and some things TD has said about him, he's more of a in-your-face corner. You know, because you have some corners that excel at playing off coverage, watching the defense, and able to read and react very quickly. Then there are others that loves to get up in your face, love to be physical with you and run with you. And the great ones can do both, whether it's off coverage or press coverage. It seemed like Christian Fulton was more of the press coverage guy. Maybe he didn't get enough opportunities here to be more so of a press coverage guy. I don't know, you know, what type of coverage they're going to sort of lean on more than others. With Denard Wilson, I don't know if they're, you know, going to be, you know, percentage-wise more of a press team, more of an off-cover team. But it seemed like Christian Fulton, when he did have some success, it was more so up in your face, you know, being physical with you. Maybe they give him that opportunity there in L.A. with the Chargers. We know how, you know, the mentality of Jim Harbaugh and how he likes to play. So maybe this is a good opportunity for Christian Fulton to start over again. Now, a lot of Christian Fulton's problems were not necessarily, you know, coverage, even though he did blow some coverages. And I even, you know, last year, early on, and I think I mentioned this, he was playing more so for a contract rather than just playing because he got beat a couple of times. Why did he get beat? Because he wanted to jump. He wanted to route read or pattern read. And he got burned a few times because of that, because he's trying to jump on some passes or read something a little prematurely Why? Because he was in a contract year. In his mind, more interceptions, more dollars. When in actuality, once he started just playing honest, he started to play a little bit better. Now, everybody knows what his problem was. He couldn't stay on the field, with hamstring issues. He was off the field, it seemed like, more than he was on the field. But I think this gives him another opportunity, a clean slate, to start over again. And hopefully he does have some success with the Chargers, the LA Chargers, because, he has all the measurables. You've seen the talent there, but he just hadn't been able to put it all together. And then when he tried to, when you try to do it your last year, sometimes your contract year, sometimes it's not going to work out the way you think it is. And it sort of bit him, in the rear end, the first half of the season, the first couple of games or whatnot. But then it seemed like he settled in, but then he dealt with the injuries once again. So I would love to see where his career goes, whether it be 1 year with LA, or if he does well and he can parlay that into a longer-term contract.
I do think that when you're a corner and you have talent, you get opportunities.
Yes.
And as flawed as he has been with the Titans, sometimes I think we scrutinize your own guy, and then you bring in the new guy, you're like, this guy's going to be better. But his last address, I'm sure the fans, they were like, oh, so-and-so, he gets burned all the time. He's not very good. We've got to get something better. Oh, yeah, bring in Christian Fulton. This would be great. He's going to be so much better. It's just sometimes that's a tough position to win over the fan base unless you're Darrelle Revis or somebody like that.
Exactly.
That's just so good that you notice the great things. There's a lot more of those guys that have good days and bad days, good series and bad series. So I'm just wondering what's next for Christian Fulton. It's a really interesting question here. All right, Ask D-Mase is coming up. Get your questions in, but pay attention right now because I got a question to throw out there on the Preds, and I know some of you already have a line name that you're throwing on there. We'll give you guys the first crack to answer this question to get tickets to the Predators game on Tuesday. But I got a trivia question for you. With the Golden Knights coming into town, the question is, do we have two pairs to give away, Nick? All right, the first two people to get this question right, we're going to hook up with tickets to Tuesday night's game with the Golden Knights. When the Golden Knights came into the league, it was the first time in a while that the Predators were involved in an expansion draft. Remember the last time it was involved, they were the expansion team. They were taking players from the other teams in the league. So they had to give up a player. Who was the player that the Predators lost to the Vegas Golden Knights in the expansion draft when Vegas entered the league in the summer of 2017, et cetera? Okay?
Dennis Rodman.
It's not Dennis Rodman.
Damn it.
It's not. Good thought, though. 615-737-1025. Hit the phone lines. Nick is going to take the barrage of calls here and keep these texts coming on the line. We've got a lot of momentum for something involving the Bridgestone Bouncers, the Broadway Bruisers, or something like that. We got a lot of fans that like that. We got to keep an eye on that. Okay, but you've got to call to get the tickets. You can't text in the answer. I already see people texting in the correct answer here, but you've got to call in to get the tickets. 615-737-1025. First two people to get it right will get the tickets. And then let's get your questions ready for D-Mase. You can bounce off some of these nicknames for the line if you want, but throw a question at D-Mase on life, on football, on the brackets. Does he think the Sparties will upset the Tar Heels? These are all things you can ask D-Mase. 615-737-1025. Stay tuned. We're coming back. All right, let's talk F&M Bank. We are going to take it to the bank. We might make a couple of picks for later today when we have our Take It to the Bank segment brought to you by F&M Bank. They do such a great job all throughout our listening area. And just a shout-out to some of you that are maybe listening up in Kentucky. I always talk about the locations for F&M Bank. They've got a location in Hopkinsville, Kentucky. I would imagine there's some very sad people up there right now who root for the Big Blue, and it didn't go their way last night, but F&M Bank's got you because that's their motto, banking made easy on purpose. So you got to know that they've got you covered on the banking side of things because your business means a lot to them. It's local. They're in your community, and they're there for you in the tough times, even when Kentucky loses. And hope is high if you're a Western Kentucky fan and you're up in that area as well. So shout out to the Commonwealth there. But also, everywhere you're listening here, you've got an F&M Bank location near you. So just go to the website, myfmbank.com, and find the nearest location to you. That's myfmbank.com. Banking made easy on purpose. It's the way to go in life. It's definitely the way to go in banking. So just find that location nearest to you. It's not hard. There's 6 in the Clarksville area, West End Avenue in Nashville, right smack in the middle of downtown, and a lot of the towns that we appreciate you listening in here on our show. F&M Bank, banking made easy on purpose, equal housing lender, member FDIC.
D-Mase.
He played 15 years in the NFL.
Quick throw. Touchdown, Derek Mason.
He had over 12,000 receiving yards.
Midfield, and there he goes. 80 yards for the touchdown.
And now you can ask him anything. Have a question about football or life? Now's your time to ask D-Mase.
We'll welcome you in.
Now on Caroline, Willy, and
D-Mase.
on 102.5 and 106.3, The Game and the Game Nashville app.
Caroline, Willy, and D-Mase rolling on this Friday. It's all going down. All kinds of games about to get cranking in the brackets. Northwestern leading Florida Atlantic early second half, 28-25. We thought for a while nobody was going to get to 20.
Yeah.
It's a little better here in the second half. They've come out shooting a little bit better. We'll keep an eye on this one. Baylor having no problem with Colgate, 54-34. The Baylor Bears at the half, the 3 seed over the 14 seed. Some other games are about to get cranking. It's time for Ask D-Mase. Now, before the break, we asked our trivia question, and that was for 2 tickets to Tuesday's game between the Predators and the Golden Knights. And so we asked a little history. Do you remember who the Predators lost in the expansion draft to the Golden Knights back in the summer of 2017 after the Predators had gone to the Stanley Cup Final? They had to give up a very important player, and it was James Neal.
Yeah.
Of course, the real deal.
Real
James
deal,
Neal,
Neal.
who you might see hanging around Nashville these days. You might, if you look closely. You might see him. You might see him.
He was spotted.
Now retired, a
West
great
End.
player. Huge part of the Predators' run to the Stanley Cup Final. And then he goes to the Golden Knights, and I think there was even a thought of, maybe they'll trade and get James Neal back if the Golden Knights are looking to get more draft picks, if they're bad like most franchises are in the first year. But what happened?
They won.
They won it. They got to the Stanley Cup Final with him.
Exactly.
And they went crazy the first year. Of course, that's when everybody changed their thought of what an expansion team could be. The Golden Knights went to the final and lost to Barry Trotz's Washington Capitals in the final. So James Neal's answer, a ton of you knew that, and I knew you did. But do we have the names of the 2 winners, Nick?
Yes, Dennis was the first one, and I'm looking at the screener. The other one was Mike, I believe.
Okay, cool. So we have Ask D-Mase going on now. We've been throwing out we've created a monster with this Name the Line, Sherwood, Smith, and McCarron. If you want to throw out a suggestion, you can, but also we asked, hit up D-Mase with whatever you have on your mind here. So let's start it off, 615-737-1025. Remember, our phone line is driven, and text line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Here's the first one for D-Mase. This is from Will over on Music Row. I do not understand trade valuations in the NFL. In baseball, you trade prospects. Same with hockey. In basketball, you trade picks and multiple players. It's gotten very complex with the salary cap in the NBA.
Yeah.
In the NFL, you trade a 4th-round pick for an all-pro receiver like Keenan Allen, which is a 1-for-1 on a player that's had a 50% chance of staying in the league for more than 3 years. Why don't we see multiplayer trades, and why is a 4th-rounder a significant offer, or like a 5th and a 6th-round pick for Kevin Byard? You do see that sometimes. You see a return for a really good player, and you're like, that's all you got?
I think sometimes it's the financial end of it, whether you deem that person, that person's getting older, and maybe he's making too much money. So you try to, at least if he still, he still can play, you try to get something for him. But you know that because he's an older player, you're not going to get back much in return. And a 4th rounder is not like what it used to be back in the day. I think 4th rounders are viewed a little bit more valuable now than they used to be, because then you can take those picks and you can package them and possibly move up in the draft. So yes, I understand you may not, from a pick standpoint, you may not be getting back the value you believe that player has, But say if you take that 4th-round pick, say if you don't have a third like the Titans don't, they trade somebody, get a third or fourth. Now you've gotten back that third, or you can package that third or that fourth and move up higher in the draft. So there's different reasons why, you see players that we deem really good players, and then you see the trade compensation, that they got back for that player, and you think, man, they only got a 5th rounder or a 4th round. No, it's not necessarily the play of the player; it's the age.
Yeah,
the dollar.
Age is big, and the big salary cap hits you have to absorb. That's a big one.
That's why usually, and then they can get a younger player at that position, and in their minds, whether it's a 3rd or 4th round pick, they figure we can get a guy to develop and play close to the level of the player you just released or traded.
Got a good text here from somebody who heard your rant to start the show about Kentucky. And if you want to vent, by the way, if you want to vent to D-Mase, D-Mase is here for your problems.
Yeah, I am.
He loves Coach Cal.
Love Coach Cal.
He wants to talk, and he'll talk you off the ledge if you had Kentucky going deep in your bracket, or you are a full Big Blue Mist fan who is down in the dumps today. This is maybe not fitting that category, but the text is, D-Mace, if Kentucky couldn't handle Oakland, do you think they could handle Riverdale or Blackman?
Well, the way that it sort of went yesterday, if Riverdale or Blackman has a 20-year-old or 23-year-old on their roster, then no, Kentucky will not win. But no, I just think, again, Coach Cal is probably the greatest recruiter we've seen, basically this decade, honestly. But, that's like, it's all for nothing because you're not advancing, far in the tournament with these great, who we deem are great players, these 4- 5-star players. You're talking about top 100 players that Coach Cal is getting, and he's getting no further than 2nd round. Yeah. At most, Sweet 16.
That's the thing. Most people are not. They're really focusing and honing in on the last few years. Since he signed the lifetime contract, they have not gotten it done. These last 4 years are not like the pre-COVID era, really. And so he's now getting further and further removed from the success. Cody in Portland, text D-Mace. Why can't Cal make it past the first weekend with teams that are stacked with NBA talent? Same line of questioning. There's a lot of frustration.
It's
because we've been talking about this. The league, the game has older players now, and it's making it hard. As great as the best freshmen are, like Shepard, Dillingham, when you're 4 years younger, or like the case of the kid last night. What's the kid's name again?
What is he? 29, 30?
He's 24.
Jack Golke?
Jack Golke. 24 years old, was playing against Trevecca in the same league as Trevecca in Division II for 5 seasons. 5. That's where the rule really, it was not a good rule. The chain reaction of letting the players basically have 2 free seasons of college. You have a lot more 22, 23, 24. North Carolina's got a guy that's 25. He's been to Stanford and Notre Dame, and now he's at North Carolina. He's 25. When I was 25, I guarantee you I would have been a much more effective player at the college level than when I was 18 or 19 and sitting on the bench mostly at Vanderbilt.
But
if I go back at 25, I think I'd be pretty good.
No,
a lot older, wiser, stronger.
Exactly. You are absolutely right with everything that you're saying.
He's the same age as what did we say? Zion Williamson. This kid hit 10 threes last night.
Zion's been in the league 4 years.
Yeah.
And he's got his going into his 6 years. But even with all of that, because y'all are absolutely right about that. Even with all of that, it's not like Oakland was hiding this guy like, hey, we're not going to play him until we face Kentucky because this is our secret weapon. And we're going to pull him out, and boy, oh boy, he's going to hit those 3-pointers. Yeah, and he's our secret weapon. Why? Because he's 25 years old. It ain't like they were hiding him.
Right.
Coach Cal looked at that roster and said, okay, there's the 25-year-old. He shoots nothing but
Threes. 375
375
attempts from
let
the
me
3-point
circle
line, 8 from
Yeah.
the 2-point line.
And I think those 8 was really free throws.
They're probably garbage time at the end of the game.
Exactly.
I'd like to see the 8 2-pointers that he took. That'd
So
be
it's
fun.
not like Oakland was hiding this guy. This is not the NFL back in the day or college football back in the day where you can hide a 5-star guy for 2 years, bury him in a roster, and then all of a sudden bring him up. No, you're not doing that. You can't do it. Coach Cal knew exactly who was on that Oakland roster, and if he didn't, shame on Coach Cal. That's more of an indictment if he didn't know. But I'm sure he knew. They just couldn't stop him. Kentucky has not played consistent defense all season long.
All right, when we come back, another round of calls and texts for D-Mase. Hit the line, 615-737-1025. Our phone line driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. If you're skipping work right now or taking a, quote, long lunch, quote, unquote, on a Friday to watch the games, D-Mase has got some excuses for you. We learned some yesterday from our listeners. So if you want to spread those around, D-Mase has got those filed away. If you got a name for this line, we got all kinds of topics to hit. 615-737-1025. Also, tune into 94.9 The Fan later today. Vanderbilt's women's basketball team is taking on Baylor in the women's national tournament. Pre-game at 4:45, tip-off at 5. Coverage also available on the Fan app, 94.9 The Fan app, and at 949thefan.com. Go Doors. How about it? We're coming back with another round for D-Mase next.
Happy Friday, everyone. Hey, listen, I hope and I pray that when you were betting on Zen Sports last night that you chose to pick Oakland over Kentucky. And I know you did because you did it with our partners, Zen Sports. And I'm happy to tell you about, everything that they have going on, okay? The reimbursements, everything else about Zen Sports. They're exclusive to Nashville. Over the last couple of months, I've been telling you about this, the news. Now, when you sign up for a Zen Sports account, you will receive up to $1,000 no danger first wager, because I've been telling you this for the last 3 months. That's right. When you place your first bet with Zen Sports, you can be reimbursed for the amount of your bet up to $1,000 if the bet loses. There's even more good news. All right, Zen Sports is rolling out their VIP program, which I've told you about, the premier program to the VIP program, which allows top-tier customers to earn more bonuses and comps and perks, okay, people? So what you need to do is by invite only. So if you feel that your Zen Sports play qualifies for this VIP consideration, then please check out the program details and apply at zensports.com/VIP. No other sports book will offer you a premier sports betting experience with 24/7 top-tier customer support and bigger and better actions than Zen Sports. So what are you waiting for, people? Get going. Download the app at zensports.com today. That's Zen Sports, where betting just got better, especially during March Madness. But always remember this: if you have any gambling problems, call 1-800-889-9789. Terms and conditions apply. Must be 21 years or older to bet here in Tennessee.
Ask him anything. Have a question about football or life? Now's your time to ask D-Mase.
We'll welcome you in.
Now on Caroline, Willy, and
D-Mase.
on 102.5 and 106.3, The Game and the Game Nashville app.
Ask D-Mase continues here on Caroline, Willy, and D-Mase, 102.5 The Game. This week, our coverage of the NCAA tournament is brought to you by Toyota. Ready, set, go. Get your Toyota today at Toyota.com. Lots of questions for D-Mace on the phone and text line. So let's go with, is it Tehran or Tyron? No, hold on that. Let's go. Let's get the next text then. D-Mace, texter text, have you ever on your bracket forgot who you picked when you watched a game and you're rooting for one team, then you look at your bracket and figure out the other team won? That happened to me. That's definitely happened to me. You're sitting there going, yeah, buzzer beater, Florida Atlantic, they got it. And then you look at your bracket. You didn't pick Florida Atlantic.
Oh, man.
Has that ever happened?
I don't think
yesterday.
Duquesne? You thought you had Duquesne?
Yeah.
Oh,
wow.
man. That's I'm sorry for you, Nick, but I've been there.
Yeah.
I've been there.
I was happy all day when I got home. I was like, yeah, Duquesne, let's go. I checked my bracket before. I'm like, wait a minute. This is not right.
It's not right.
Yeah.
Surely that's not who I picked. That's a mistake.
Yeah,
I had
finger
Duquesne.
slipped. The finger slipped. Had to have been.
No, I don't think I've had one of those.
And have you ever had this guy, too, from your bracket pool? Yeah, I had Oakland. And then you find out he did have Oakland on one of his 8 brackets that he filled out. The other 7 he had Kentucky. Oh yeah, I had Oakland. I told you about Oakland. I told you.
Yeah, but you ain't having on a bracket that mattered. Oh man, let me see. I'm trying to think. Okay, I don't know who I pick. I guess it's closed.
It is funny we got that text. It's D-Mace we're watching Florida Atlantic and Northwestern. And D-Mace honestly cannot remember which team he picked.
Okay, I got it. Let me see. I picked Northwestern to win.
Okay, so you're in good shape. Northwestern is leading. I have Florida Atlantic. 43-36 Northwestern. 10:53 to go in the second. Baylor crushing Colgate. 54-34 at the half. Underway, San Diego State 7-3 over UAB. Getting it started there.
Hey, I'm doing good right about now on the brackets here at the station. I'm doing pretty good right now.
Okay.
I did lose to South Carolina, which I know nobody cares, but I did lose the South Carolina-Oregon game. I picked South Carolina to win. Obviously, Oregon won that game. And then I did pick Kentucky to win. Damn me. I picked Drake. That was one of my upsets, Drake to beat Washington State. Drake did not win. BYU. I picked BYU. They end up losing. Gosh, and those were my only 3 losses yesterday, which kind of messed up my bracket on the south side just a tad bit because I picked Kentucky, but I had Marquette beating Kentucky anyway. So
Marquette playing later today. All right, let's go back to the phones, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Let's go to Wes. He's up next for D-Mace. Wes, what do you got?
Oh, y'all know I had to come with the dad joke, right?
Let's go, Wes.
Can't let y'all forget it's Friday. So, I got a question for you. What weighs more, a gallon of water or a gallon of butane?
Gallon of water or a gallon of butane? They're both a gallon, so I guess they're the same.
Well, a gallon of water has got to weigh more, D-Mace. Butane is a lighter fluid. I figured you'd like that one.
I like that one.
Now, my question for you is football going into the Titans, because I read something I didn't like, and I just need you to kind of let me know if this is something I should be concerned on. Okay. Derrick Henry basically talked in Baltimore about how he ended up outside of Tennessee, and the only thing I took away from it was he said that he left Tennessee basically because he did not trust the process that Rand gave him that he was going to rebuild the team. Derrick Henry didn't like the vision that he had to rebuild the team, so he ultimately decided he wanted to leave. Should that be a concern for us?
No, not really. And thank you, Wes. I appreciate the call. It shouldn't be too much of a concern because I think my thing is, and I don't know what was said between Rand and Derek that made him think that, but Derek said this, during the Bussin' with the Boys podcast. He said they were going in a different direction. You saw it. And sometimes when a team is going in a different direction, you may not like that as a player because they are moving away from what has been so beneficial for them the last 5 years. It's the running of Derrick Henry. Now they're saying, hey, listen, thank you, Derrick Henry. You always go down as one of the greatest Titans ever. Your name will be in the Ring of Honor, whatever else. You do good in Baltimore, you are a Hall of Famer, but we are moving away from that style of play. We are entering more into what the NFL is now. So that could be translated to Derrick Henry as, hey, listen, he may think of it as, that's not what I want to hear. And the direction you're going in doesn't fit me as a player. So, you choose to, and I think it was mutual. I think Derrick Henry wanted to go somewhere where he can win now. I think the Titans appreciated Derrick Henry's what he had done here over his career, but they were ready to move on as well. So don't take that as a diss to the Titans. Just take it more so as the Titans are going in another direction, and he's not a part of that direction that they're headed.
Phil in Kentucky texts, I'm from about 30 minutes from Lexington. The fallout is unreal up here. I know a ton of UK fans who bleed blue or are calling for Cal's job. Most are giving up on them until he's gone. How can you basically be an NBA farm team and can't make it past a D2 transfer who got hot? Ridiculous. Now, in fairness, he definitely got hot. He had some very tough threes, but he is a good shooter. He had another game this year where he hit 10 threes in a game.
Yeah.
But calling for his job, is that a little bit of a overreaction?
I wouldn't fire him, but I am not surprised that UK fans, there are some UK fans that just had enough, and are not scared to see what's on the other side. Situation that Kentucky has a good situation from this standpoint. They know they're going to have top recruits every year as long as Cal's there. That's the good. The bad is you don't know what you're going to get out of those guys. You don't know if they're going to exit in the first round. And it's not predicated on what they do during the year. Has nothing to do with what they do during the year, because we've seen Coach Cal have great teams during the year, and then they get in the tournament, and for whatever reason, they wet the bed for whatever reason. So it's not necessarily, what Cal does during the season. It's what he does in the playoffs.
I think it's the whole, hey, he's got an NBA farm team is a little bit of a flaw. It's not realizing where the game has gone with older players. This kid was 24 that hit that player didn't really exist 5-10 years ago. So it's adapting to the formula. To me, is the adapting to the changing times. I do think it'll come back a little bit when the COVID rules finally go away. When is that? Please tell me that's the end of this year.
Hopefully it's this year.
When I saw Tyron Lawrence was in the transfer portal, I was like, he can still play. He's been around. But this is how it is. You get to play 5 or 6 years. That won't be the case going forward. So Cal's formula could come back, but when I think you notice this with Tim Corbin and Vanderbilt. He's got always great recruiting classes, but that means freshmen have to play. They're 18 or 19. And you're playing against these teams now who have players who have played 5 years of college baseball. That's a huge advantage. I don't care how talented the 18 or 19-year-old kid is. That's what the one-and-done formula is now with Kentucky. Cal knows that sometimes freshmen are going to have ups and downs. They used to be able to be, but the gap is widened. When you're playing against a guy 4 years older than you, that's not easy. I don't care how good you are.
Yeah, here's the gift. Kentucky fans, here's the gift, but then also the curse.
Yes.
Of Coach Cal. The gift is, you're going to have a good team based upon his recruiting. you know you're going to have a good team. The curse is the expectation that comes along with that, and then you end up losing, to teams that you are man to man you are better than. That's the curse. Is that you get into the field of 64 or whatever it is now. You get into March Madness and you lose to a team that you are better than. That you are, like, top to bottom, you are better than. That's the curse. The gift is you're going to have the players. You're going to have them, no doubt. But the curse is you're going to end up losing to a team that is not better than you for whatever reason.
All right, when we come back, we'll continue to talk about this subject, and we'll look at Tennessee, who fortunately didn't make any noise. They took care of business last night easily against St. Peter's. Chad Withrow is going to join us, and we'll talk about this, and we'll get his thoughts on where Kentucky goes from here. Stay tuned. We've got a lot more coming. Hour number 3 is next here on 102.5 The Game. Caroline, Willy, and D-Mase, final hour of the show brought to you by Zen Sports. Start earning cash rewards on your bets today. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-889-9789. Terms and conditions apply. Must be 21 and up and in Tennessee to bet. Okay, quick scoreboard update before we get to Chad Withrow. Let's see if we get Chad online. We should have him in just a moment. Northwestern continues to lead Florida Atlantic 56-50, 4:20 to go in the second half of that one. San Diego State leads UAB 18-13, about midway through the first. Marquette underway against Western Kentucky 5-5, about 2.5 minutes in. Baylor continues to be in control of the 14 seed Colgate 59-42. All right, Willie Donick, Derek Mason here with you. Caroline on vacation. She'll be back on Monday. Chad Withrow, Hot Mike with Hutton and Withrow. We talk to his colleague Jonathan Hutton every Wednesday on the show. And we are consulting Chad to see what's going on here. First of all, Chad, are you a fan of hash brown casserole? Because Derek Mason right now is testing it out for the first time and liking what he's tasting here.
First off, Willie D, it's great to hear your voice and be on with you. Second, I am a huge advocate of hash brown casserole. I'm so much an advocate of hash brown casserole that my go-to order at Waffle House is hash brown casserole scattered, smothered, covered, and chunked with little chunks of bits of ham in it. And I do something a little unconventional. I don't know if D-Mase does this also, but I douse it with ketchup. So, and people think I'm crazy for it, and I'm thinking, well, do you dip your fries in ketchup? Because it's all potatoes. It all stems from the potato, right?
Yep.
So it's great with ketchup.
I mean, I'm sure it would be. I'm more of a hot sauce person on something like this. Now, if it was just, from fries, ketchup, no doubt. Or mustard and mayo together, then dip your ketchup in. Dip your fry in. But with this, I could see a little hot sauce on there. I don't know if you ever traveled down that road, but hot sauce is good on this.
We got into this debate before.
I'm way too big of a wimp to try hot sauce. I'm not a hot, spicy guy. I know that shocks everyone. No. I'm way more ketchup than hot sauce, unfortunately for me.
So D-Mase had never had the hash brown casserole. I'm a huge hash brown guy, but so a listener of ours, Wes, just dropped by about a month's supply of hash brown casserole. So everybody in the station today, if they want hash brown casserole, we got you covered.
Well, I'm hungry now.
Okay, so Chad, you just need to come by.
Accomplished to get making me hungry. I'm starving for hash brown casseroles at this point.
All right, Chad, you as a Tennessee graduate, I'm sure we're taking note of Kentucky getting beat by Oakland last night, and apparently Lexington is burning down along with half of the state. So just what were your thoughts when you saw that happen?
My first thought was this might actually be it for John Calipari.
Really?
And I didn't think that going in, right? And I thought, okay, if it's an early exit, it's going to look really bad for him just because he's really not adjusting. And there continues to be, Willie, this sort of banging his head up against the wall to try to explain things away by simply, my players didn't make shots and I'm getting great players and look at all these NBA draft picks, while not adjusting to the game right now. He's not – Reeves was a great addition. There's no doubt about it. And he did see a couple years ago that there is a benefit to having an older team, but then even that team loses in the first round of the tournament to St. Peter's with Oscar Tshiebwe and everyone else. So I don't think John Calipari's adjusting, but last night was the first time I actually allowed myself to think they may actually get rid of John Calipari, even though he has a $33 million buyout and a lifetime contract. That's the first time I allowed my mind to go there. I don't know what they're going to do ultimately, but you look at his tournament, the lack of tournament success in both SEC and NCAA tournament in the 2020s. I saw a hilarious graphic that said Fairleigh Dickinson and Oral Roberts have one more NCAA tournament win than Kentucky does in the 2020s in this decade. That tells you a lot about where this Kentucky program has fallen.
Yeah, it's frustrating, I'm sure, for those fans. We know how hungry they are. I do wonder if John Calipari looks at the future of college basketball, because it is, with the NIL and transfers, the formula has changed so much, right? You do need to have, and this is where Tennessee, I think, has put themselves in good position, older players, especially if you can keep them together for longer. There's a huge benefit. I don't care how great your recruiting class is.
Yeah, I think Tennessee's a good example, Willie, because they really found the formula. You know, a year ago, they were a good team, but not really great. They had one really good second half against Duke. They get themselves to the Sweet 16. But that was a defensive team, first, second, third, fourth, fifth, last, everything. They had no offense. They were a great defensive team that they would go through 7-8 minute scoring droughts and couldn't solve people defensively on the other end. So they go out now, Dalton Connect, a fifth-year guy who's a one and done on the other end, the reverse of the John Calipari one and done as a high school senior, going to be a freshman and then go to the NBA. Tennessee gets the guy on the end that turns out to be better than anyone could have imagined. And they've set themselves up well, where as long as most of those guys come back, they're going to be really old again next year with the ability to go add a guy or two in the transfer portal that's older, that is a known, proven scorer to add to the mix. I think that's the formula that John Calipari should look at. I know after the game he kind of said in passing, oh, maybe I should add a guy or two that's a veteran player to the team next year. But we may not need to also because we're going to be so talented again with the second best recruiting class in the country coming in next year. I don't think John Calipari's figured it out. I think Rick Barnes has in terms of the formula for what he needs in his program. And if Calipari continues, this may be it for him, but if it's not, he's got to adjust. And he has not done a good enough job of doing that in the last few seasons.
I think that is a great point. So you just said it about Tennessee. We've all been curious because they've been good. Now you have Connect. Certainly last night, it had to be a relief to all Tennessee fans because the game was over at the halftime. There was no business of you're in trouble against the 15 seed. I look at their draw. It looks pretty doable. So what are your thoughts on the chances for Tennessee to make the deep run everybody wants?
Well, my first thought was when Kentucky lost, I started immediately getting texts from my Tennessee friends that were, going crazy and bragging about Kentucky losing. And I'm thinking, hey, guys, Tennessee's got a little game against a certain St. Peter's program that everyone remembers from a couple of years ago. So let's take care of business first before getting too excited about Kentucky losing. And take care of business is exactly what Tennessee did in that game. They were far better. St. Peter's is a team that got hot in their conference tournament. I think they finished fifth in that MAAC conference. And Tennessee did what they needed to do as a superior team and looked really good in doing so. Willie, I'm with you. I like their matchups moving forward. I will say, and we'll probably talk a little bit more about the next matchup, this Texas game is eerily similar to Michigan a couple years ago, where Michigan gets in as an 11 seed. They win their first game. They beat Tennessee and that Kennedy Chandler team in the second round. That was an underachieving Michigan team that was super talented with Hunter Dickinson and some of the players on that team. They beat Tennessee to get to the Sweet 16. I kind of feel the same way about this Texas team. With Abmas and Dylan Dessou and some of those guys, they underachieved most of the year. They are talented enough to get the job done. You see that with Tennessee only being, I think, a 6-point favorite in this game. But I don't think it's a terrible matchup for the Vols. And this team has everything it takes to go on a deep run. Are they going to be the first ever Tennessee team to get this program to their first ever Final Four? Time will tell, but I think you've got three things that you have going into every game. I think that Dalton Connect is going to be fine, and he's going to get his points. I think that Zakai Ziegler is going to come through in some big moments, and he's going to have the courage and toughness to make some big plays. And I think Jonas Adu can be pretty reliable in the post. The two big X factors for this team are the super seniors, Santiago Vescovi and Josiah Jordan-James. Those guys are lost offensively right now. It was a good sign to see Vescovi bury a couple open threes last night. Josiah Jordan-James remains lost. He took 2 shots all night, didn't hit any of them, did not score. If those guys can figure something out, I'm not talking about going off for 15 or 20 points. If they could combine for 3 threes between the two of them in a game, that completely changes Tennessee's outlook because they're going to start doubling Connect. They're going to see more and more junk defenses, and those guys are going to get open looks. They've got to bury some open looks if Tennessee's going to advance as far as they can.
We'll talk with Chad Withrow, host of Hot Mic with Hutt and Withrow. Now, Chad, after yesterday game, they pretty much handled business, the Vols. But, as you move on to the second round and thus rounds after that, it gets a little bit harder. Is there, and you just talked about some of the things that maybe could be a concern because, Connect was on last night and, some of the other guys didn't have to really, pitch in a lot. This is just a dominant performance by UT. But is there something that could possibly, rear its ugly head moving forward. I saw that they had 15 turnovers yesterday. Now, listen, again, they beat, St. Peter's down, but when you start to move on in the tournament, those turnovers and those possessions are going to be critical moving forward.
Yeah, D-Mase, I think it's two factors. One, we saw rear its ugly head a bit last night, but they were so far ahead it didn't matter. They were not good at the free throw line. And missing free throws the way they did last night, that could cost you in a game like Saturday against Texas. The other factor to me, and I've heard Dane Bradshaw on SEC Network talk about this, and I think he nailed it when he said it. Tennessee still has this psyche about them where offensive woes become very contagious very quickly. We saw it in the game against South Carolina and Knoxville, their only loss at home this year, earlier this season. I was watching the broadcast, and Dane Bradshaw said, this is a team that at times will look like they've never played with each other or practiced with each other.
I agree with that. That's an interesting way of putting it.
Yeah, and we saw it in Nashville. I was there at the game against Mississippi State. Same thing. They were forcing it. They weren't calling fouls on Mississippi State early. Tennessee got bothered by that. They're driving into traffic. Mississippi State's getting more physical with them. They're taking the ball away. They're getting run-outs the other way. And then even when the Vols would get open shots, they'd miss it. They're one of the more contagiously bad offensive shooting teams I've seen that would also label as a great college basketball team, right? Everyone has this ability to go in spurts where they can't hit anything. We've been watching it with FAU, who's a great offensive team this morning, during their game. So it happens to everyone. But Tennessee has truly great potential. They also have awful potential that when a few guys start missing open looks, it feels like everyone misses it. I felt that way last night at the free throw line. They're contagiously bad at the free throw line. So those are the two things to watch out for. Now, if they play defense the way they did last night and the way they're capable of, they could even survive a bad offensive performance and win a close, low-scoring game. They have the defensive ability to do that, but I'm watching free throws, and I'm watching the psyche of this team when a couple of their star players starts to miss open looks and it starts to bleed over into every player on the roster. That's what could kill this team in the tournament.
Do they have the depth on the bench to make a deep run? Now, we know their starting five is damn good, led by Connect. But as you move further down in the tournament, you're going to need a bench to help you if indeed the starters have trouble scoring.
I'm glad Awaka was okay. He went out with a knee injury last night, and there was some speculation that maybe he was really badly hurt. He wasn't. He came back in the game. So that would have been a big one for Tennessee because they're going to get in foul trouble. Between Adu and Awaka, if they're going to go on a run in the tournament, they're going to have a game. Maybe it's against Texas where they're in foul trouble. So I think Awaka off the bench is very important. I think Jordan Gainey is the ultimate X factor off the bench. He's a guy who can heat up from three and bail Tennessee out. He's a guy who can also shoot you out of the game. And he's going to keep shooting. He's not afraid, and that can be good. That can be bad for Tennessee. I'll be honest. I want to see more Jemai Mashack over Josiah Jordan-James. And I love what James has brought to the Tennessee program and all the intangibles that he's brought to the table for this team. But if he's going to be this lost offensively, I don't understand playing him over Mashack the minutes they've been playing him over Mashack, because Mashack is capable of hitting an open corner three. Mashack is capable in a late clock situation to break someone down one-on-one and go get a bucket. And Josiah Jordan-James simply cannot do that right now. So to answer your question, D-Mase, I'd like to see more Mashack off the bench and maybe even starting at some point in this tournament from what I've seen so far. But I think their bench is fine. I don't think it's going to be an issue for them. I also don't think it's some gigantic strength.
Let's ask this too, Chad. What do you think of the actual matchup with Texas? People will be familiar with Dylan Dessou, who played 2 or 3 years at Vanderbilt. He's been in college forever. He's one of those five. He fits it right in with Josiah Jordan-James and Santiago Vescovi. They've played 5 consecutive years of college basketball. He's good. I forget how to pronounce the other kid's name. Max. It's not how it's spelled.
It's Abmas, I think. That's how they were pronouncing it last night when I was watching the game. Abmas.
But he's a guy that has the ball a lot. I've watched him play. He will take some crazy shots, but he can make them. But I kind of like Tennessee's defense against a guy like that. Also, I look at Texas's on the KenPom inability to rebound. I think Tennessee can exploit them, they can get some second chance points. That's a good fallback if they're not making the shots. But what do you think of the matchup?
I think exactly what you said there, the last part, Willie, and that is Tennessee should have a big-time rebounding advantage in this game. Now, I know last night a lot of it was because St. Peter's couldn't hit anything, but Tennessee was plus 26 on the boards in that game against St. Peter's. They don't have the same advantage against Texas, but they've got a pretty sizable advantage with Adu down low. And if they decide to go big with Adu and Awaka, which they've done in the past, I think Awaka is one of the best offensive rebounders. If you look at all the Ken Pom metrics of percentage of shots he gets off the offensive glass, one of the best offensive rebounders in the country when he's in the game. So I think there's going to be some second chance points for Tennessee. Don't fall in love with the three. The one guy you want falling in love with the three if he's hitting early is Dalton Connect. But I think for everyone else, do more what they did last night. Work the ball down low. Go inside out if you are going to take a bunch of threes. But work that advantage down low. I do think Tennessee is going to have an interior advantage in this game to get offensive rebounds, to get Adu going early in it. And I think that Rick Barnes last night was sort of a warm-up for that. In his halftime interview, or during his in-game interview, he said, we want to make sure that we're still dominating this part of the court right here. And he was putting his hand around and drawing a circle around the goal and saying, we want to keep doing that throughout the night. I think that's a preview of what's more to come in this regional. And I think it's a preview of the Texas game of what Tennessee wants to try to do in this one.
Chad, great stuff. Enjoy the contest this weekend, and good luck with your brackets. Great to catch up with you, and we'll maybe check in next week and see if the Vols are still around.
Yeah, Willie, great hearing from you. D-Mase, always good talking to you. I'm enjoying the tournament. I know you guys are as well, and we'll chat soon.
All right. Chad Withrow, Hot Mike with Hutton and Withrow. You hear his colleague every week on our show, Jonathan Hutton. Chad joins Jared every week on his show. So great to catch up with Chad. It's a very exciting finish going on right now between Northwestern and Florida Atlantic. Florida Atlantic in the 8-9 game after being in the Final Four last year got in basically as a bubble team, and we've got a review. It's going to take forever. Gene Sarator is going to come on the microphone. It's hard to tell who the ball went off of. This is what's going on right now. We'll tell you what's going on, but FAU leads 58-56 with 27 seconds to go. Whose ball is it? We'll tell you when we come back. Stay tuned. We're coming back. We'll have our Take It to the Bank at 1:45, so stick with us for that. All right, let's talk Lee Company, 615-567-1000. The Predators are on a roll, as we all know, 16 games now. A new record for the franchise, 14-0-2 in the last 16, and a big game tomorrow against the Red Wings, the old rivals from back in the day. And the Red Wings are fighting to get into the playoffs. That's going to be fun tomorrow. Lee Company is a part of our Predator coverage, a proud sponsor of the organization, and we love that about them. Also, we love it for what they do for your household. Lee Company has the home maintenance plan. They've got you covered. So you can sit back and watch the games and not have to worry about, is the heater working? Is the air conditioning working? What about the plumbing? The annual checkups that you get from Lee Company's home maintenance plan are key. You pay a small monthly fee. In exchange for that, you get the annual checkups and you get discounts on repairs. It's a good formula. It works for us in our house, and so that's what we go with. Lee Company and the home maintenance plan. Find out more. 615-567-1000 or leecompany.com. That's 615-567-1000 or leecompany.com. I feel like Nick Frazier is channeling this to the Kentucky fans. Take a deep breath. Hang in there. Every little thing's going to be all right. Just go with it. It's okay. The sun will come up. Life will go on, whether Cal stays or goes. A little Bob Marley, just to take it down a notch. My bracket was ruined because of Kentucky. I'm over it. I'm really not over it, but I'm telling myself that I'm over it. All right,
man, that was one lazy shot by
okay. Yes, it was.
The Florida Atlanta player. Like, it was 5 seconds left. Score was Northwestern was down 2 points, Florida Atlantic. The refs almost messed up the game for everybody.
And so we're going to talk about that in a minute. But Northwestern and Florida Atlantic are going to OT, 58 all. It's been a grinder. It's been hard to score. We didn't think anybody was going to get to 20 for a long time. They barely got to 20 at the half. And it had been a whole lot easier in the second half. But they had a weird call, and it had us kind of talking about what you should do. They had a call where the ref mistakenly called a guy out of bounds that wasn't out of bounds.
Clearly he wasn't out of bounds.
And you weren't sure who the ball was off of, and they went to review, and they realized they had screwed it up, and they called a jump ball. But instead of actually tipping it up at half court, they went with the possession arrow. So that it's very randomly, the ball went back to Florida Atlantic. Now, Northwestern lived to tell about it because they got a stop, and then they went out and really did a great job making a drive to the basket to tie it. And then, as you mentioned, Florida Atlantic came down. The guy waited way too long He just tried to jack it up. He just stopped. It didn't attack the basket at all. It was a terrible shot to try to win it in regulation. He thought he was going to be the hero, but they were like, no, we're not having this.
He wanted to be on the replay. He got it blocked. Like, dude, you got to be aggressive going to the basket.
But I think that's a really interesting rule question in the review process. Now Northwestern's gotten the first 2 buckets of overtime. They're off to a good start. But I think in a dispute where the referee basically messes up, why not just jump it up instead of go with the possession arrow? With that little time left, if it's less than a minute to go, I wonder if they should look at that. Because it's not a tie-up. A jump ball is a tie-up where you and me are going for the ball, and it's, we both have it. That's where you use the possession arrow. But if it's a messed up call by the ref, let's jump it up.
Jump it up, yeah, because that clearly the Florida Atlantic guy wasn't out of bounds. He was a foot from the out of bounds line.
It wasn't close.
It wasn't even close. And then the ref called him out of bounds. And then subsequently, Northwestern gets the ball, but then they're out of bounds, but they had already stopped the play. Then they go back to the replay, and they're watching it for about 5 minutes, and then they determine, it's a jump ball, possession Florida Atlantic. No, it should be a jump ball in the middle of the court. Y'all almost messed up the game for both teams.
That is for sure.
Gosh, refs, get out the way. You are there to not be seen, okay? Or heard. Just make your calls.
They're lucky that the game went to overtime, or else that would have been a big point of contention for Northwestern fans. But now, Northwestern up 3 with the ball, 3:33 to go in overtime. The other scores, Baylor in full command. They have not really been challenged at all by Colgate, 86-64 Bears with Scott Drew's crew. San Diego State 31, UAB 24, 3:26 to go in the first. Northwestern just hit another dagger. It's now 65-59. You can see the Big Ten fever coming out of D-Mase here.
I picked Northwestern.
See, I had Florida Atlantic. This is not good for me. Marquette leading Western 25-15 with about 9 minutes to go in the first half. Coming up next will be Stetson, the Hatters, 16 seed against number 1 UConn. That ought to be interesting. UConn is a 27-point favorite in that one. New Mexico versus Clemson. Yale, Auburn. Colorado against Florida. That'll be an interesting matchup. We'll see what Florida brings to the table. A good performance by them at the SEC tournament. Texas A&M, speaking of that, gets Nebraska in another 9 versus 8 game. Vermont and Duke, Grambling, Purdue, Charleston, Alabama, Longwood, Houston, and let's see, James Madison against Wisconsin, TCU, Utah State, Grand Canyon, St. Mary's. That's the last game, and so that will probably be the last one. And we will take it to the bank here in just a few minutes.
So, Willy,
on those games.
So, Willy, I mentioned a call to you.
Pick 1 or 2 of those.
That from the Kansas and Sanford game, It was second half.
Yeah, see, I didn't see this.
Yeah, you didn't see this.
I
Second
missed
half,
this.
there was maybe a minute left in the game, somewhere
Under
around
a
there.
minute.
Under a minute left. Yeah, the block. Kansas has basically a breakaway. They get the ball up the court off a rebound, get the ball up the court. Guys run down the court. Sanford guy makes a hustle play. Kansas guy goes up to dunk the ball. Sanford guy comes from behind him, gets all ball, knocks it out of the way. It would have been a sort of fast break in a sense, going back the other way. Had they let it stand and play, they would have had an advantage going back the other way. The guy goes up to dunk the ball. He grabs the rim, falls. He falls awkwardly, and the ref, not based upon the actual block, but he called a foul based upon the guy falling. At least that's what I'm thinking, because there's no way anybody can see that wasn't a foul. He got all ball. His body didn't even touch the guy. He got all ball blocked. They called a foul on Sanford. Ultimately, Sanford loses the game. And, that's the first question asked. Even the announcers were like, listen, that is not a foul. What in the hell is he seeing? They didn't say hell, but what is he looking at?
I'm looking at it right now. This is the first time I've seen it.
It is not a foul.
No.
That's a situation where they should be, just like we talked about with this game, that's a situation where you should be able to go back
and review that?
And review it. The last minute of the game or 2 minutes of the game, you should be able to go back and look at a foul, whether it was truly a foul or not. Because now what they're doing, they're not necessarily looking at the foul. They're looking at how guys land.
Yeah.
If a guy grabs his head or if a guy grabs his arm or something like that, and it seems like he's been hit or something, then they're calling fouls based upon the player's reaction, not actually based upon the play.
Now, correct me if I'm wrong. In the NBA, you can challenge.
You can challenge
and
that.
say
yes.
that wasn't a foul.
Absolutely.
But you can't do it in college.
You can't.
Right?
And my thing is,
you can review whether it's a flagrant foul
Yeah.
and all that stuff, but you can't say that was all
challenge
ball.
And
Yeah.
my thing is, don't make it like throughout the whole game. Just the last 2 minutes of each half.
And maybe one challenge. Maybe,
exactly. We can
so
go
you don't
back
challenge
and look
everything, but you have one challenge in your back pocket that you could challenge a play
Absolutely.
like that. I wouldn't mind that.
Or the league, the league, whoever's watching the game, they come and they buzz in and say, hey, listen, you may want to look at that one. Because there's no way.
That's an interesting one. The eye in the sky
Exactly.
say we need to look at this again.
There's no way that should have been a foul. That may have cost Sanford the game because they would have had a 4-on-5 going back the other way.
Because the Kansas guy wiped out.
Absolutely.
Oh, man. I had Sanford, too. Wait a minute. We need to have a rule change. We need to go back and do this over. By the way, Northwestern has now gone up by 10 in the overtime with 1:30 to go. Wow.
I hope it's over.
John L. Davis, who was a hero last year when they went to the Final Four, he had the chance at the last shot. He just didn't. He stopped his momentum. He didn't attack the basket. And as it turns out, that's probably going to be their one chance to win it. They made a great comeback late to take the lead against Northwestern. They had been behind most of the game.
56 that took the lead.
Yeah. And then Northwestern hit a driving layup to tie it, and they have dominated the overtime thus far. Wow. So we've got some things. I feel like, though, D-Mase, as we kind of start thinking about the next segment and take it to the bank, we haven't had that upheaval yet. We had the Oakland win.
Yes.
But there hasn't been that other big upset. I feel like there's going to be another big upset
this
later
week?
today.
Are you
later
saying today?
Later today,
Okay.
tonight. I feel like there's another big one up there somewhere.
I'm
not really talking about like a 12-5. I'm talking about one of those big ones.
Are you going to go out on
14,
a limb and say
15.
who that one's going to be? Or you're like, nah, I'm not going there. I just think it's going to be an upset.
I don't have when I say that, I don't have a particular team in mind. I don't. I just feel like it's the odds are just the way the tournament is played, and just like the kid last night that hit 10 threes, there's going to be another guy like that. Or a team that just goes ice cold at the wrong time.
So you think, how about UConn and Stetson?
No.
You think
I don't think it'll
Houston
be the
and
16.
Longwood?
No.
You don't think
no
it's
way.
that? Okay, let me give you another game.
What about like Vermont against Duke? Duke's 12.5-point favorite. I don't think Grambling. I watched Grambling's game. I don't think they can bother Purdue. I could be wrong.
What about UAB, San Diego State?
No, well, I picked San Diego State now, and that's a 12-5.
Yeah,
that's
I
not
picked
a
San Diego
huge.
State. So
The
UAB
12-5s,
winning?
you know, that's a.
I picked
those
San
happen.
Diego State. Yeah.
San Diego State is going to take
How about
the lead.
Auburn, Yale?
Who was it? Was it Seth Davis or one of those guys when the first brackets were announced on that Sunday? He said, "Oh, watch out! I like Yale."
Yeah, they're shooting almost 35% from the three-point line.
Yale won the Ivy League. It was a pretty deep Ivy League. It was a buzzer beater in the last game that got Yale in there. I'll be surprised. I'm not feeling that. I think Auburn's got it. So I don't know who it's going to be. It's not anybody that I really picked. As I'm looking at the games, I have James Madison, but that's everybody. Not everybody. A lot of people are picking James Madison.
I'm sure a lot of people are picking Grand Canyon.
Grand Canyon's about a 5.5-point dog. That's not a huge upset, even if one or two of those
Alabama,
win.
Charleston.
I will say this: Alabama,
I picked Charleston.
Alabama can have the bad game because they shoot so many threes. If they have an off game and they don't play great defense, I would say. So I think a Charleston, if they're hot, could hang with Alabama. That's just my thought. So that would be one to watch. Now, is that a huge upset? I'd say a 13 is legit.
Yeah.
So maybe not a
4?
Cinderella. Yeah, I guess we're out of
that'd
it.
be
I
an
guess
upset.
the 15s are done, right? We've got a couple 16s that are playing here, but the big one that is historic, I guess the best we've got is the 14. I don't think anybody besides Oakland as a 14 or higher is going to win. Unless a 16 wins, right? The 15s are done.
Well,
unless Western comes in. Now, Western is still in the game. They're playing Marquette, and they're right in it. They're down 3 with 7 minutes to go in the first half. So maybe that's the one.
Yeah.
And Jonathan Hutton did say he was calling for Western. Nick remembers that. He's nodding his head.
What about Wisconsin, James Madison? Did you say that one?
We talked about the 12-5s on the show yesterday. I'm taking both of the 12s, or at least I took them in my bracket. James Madison and Grand Canyon. Now you're saying, Willie, didn't you finish last in the pool last year? Yes, I did. Willie, did you have Kentucky going to the final this year? Yes, I did.
So you finishing last again.
So maybe go opposite. Maybe when I take it to the bank, you go opposite. That might be the way to go. That might be the way to go. All right, it's 72-61 Northwestern over Florida Atlantic. It looks like Northwestern is going to get to the finish line here and win in overtime. So Chris Collins and the Wildcats representing the Big Ten. We will take our final timeout, and we will come back and take it to the bank when we come back. So keep it right here on 102.5 The Game.
Here comes the money.
And you can take that to the bank.
Here comes the money. Money, 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 money.
It is time to take it to the bank. Wrapping up the week. I'm just wondering, Nick. By the way, our Take It to the Bank segment brought to you, as always, by F&M Bank. Go to myfmbank.com to find the nearest location. Banking made easy on purpose. Has Caroline texted any Take It to the Bank?
She did not, and this is why I'm going to talk to the committee and ask, what shall we do this week?
0. She gets a 0.
A 0. Okay. D-Mase, you okay with that? Caroline, you get a 0?
Hey, she's not here?
This is true. She's not even here to accept her award because I am
Exactly.
about to unveil season 1.
Now,
of
we'll
Take It
give
to the
her
Bank.
some time later today. If she wants to text you, we'll accept that.
Okay.
We'll accept that. Let's see if it dawns on her. She may be having just too much fun. But D-Mase, we were wondering, Nick, you can weigh in on this. Could she possibly be having more fun than we are this week? We've had a great time.
I don't know.
This week we've had a lot of laughs on the show. So Caroline chose to take the vacation during the March Madness. That's her prerogative. And maybe she's having the time of her life. Maybe.
I think we're
having a good time here.
I think we are drawing from her energy.
I think
we're
maybe
drawing
so.
from her energy.
Maybe so.
Because she's having fun, so we kind of picking that up because she's the third sort of like triangle.
Yes.
Third point of the triangle. So we're pulling in from her energy from where she's at. So thank you,
That's right.
Caroline, because we know you're having a lot of fun.
I will say
we will discuss on Monday.
I don't think she's having as much fun as we are. I mean, we're ending the week on hash brown casserole, cornbread.
She missed the hash brown casserole.
I mean,
yeah.
D-Mase, I have to get your thoughts before we go to Take It to the Bank. Like, are you okay? You're yes?
Hash brown casserole. Mwah.
Nashville, he has been
Yes.
adopted as a true Southerner now with this hash brown
With a
casserole.
little cornbread, too?
It's over.
That's my cornbread.
Game over. And you know the thing you said with Chad Withrow? You said hot sauce and not ketchup.
Oh, yeah, put a little hot sauce on there, man. No catch. And I understand Chad. He don't like the little hot stuff. I get it. It ain't made for some people. But me, being from the D, you see how that rhyme? Me being from the D, I like my hot sauce, man. I like my hot sauce.
Okay.
Or Cholula.
There you
or
go.
Red Hot, whatever you want to use.
Anything.
Exactly.
All right, we got to point this out. Speaking of red hot, the Hilltoppers of Western Kentucky on a 15-5 run. They just went up by 3. Marquette just came back with a hoop. Western has taken the lead, the 15 seed. So I was just saying that I feel like there's another big one. Western might be the one. Let's see. Marquette is having all kinds of trouble guarding them right now. So Western Kentucky fans, they have perked up. So maybe some of you Kentucky fans that are kind of Western fans a little bit on the side, you can jump on this bandwagon full throttle. Full throttle. What's their name? Is it the Big Red, the mascot?
The Hilltoppers, yeah.
Well,
Big
the
Red.
Hilltop, the mascot's a funny.
Yeah, Big Red, I believe.
Big
is his
Red,
name,
right?
yeah.
So
the giant blob.
He's the blob. He is a blob.
Yep. So
All right.
Northwestern has moved on. They've eliminated Florida Atlantic. They won 77-65, so that's good for me because my bracket is still intact somewhat. So Northwestern, the Cats are moving on.
Western is now up by – they just made a steal, and they're about to hit a 3. It is now 39-33. They're up
You
6.
called it, didn't you?
They're
Willy?
attacking.
Oh, no, you're looking at it on your
looking at-
computer. Yeah.
My computer was a little ahead of our TV. San Diego State leading UAB 35-29 at the half. Stetson and UConn are underway. And as D-Mase said, Northwestern defeats Florida Atlantic 77-65 in overtime. They outscored them 19-7 in the OT. And Baylor whips Colgate 92-67. All right, Nick, the Take It to the Bank. What did we have last week?
I'm now recapping the winners of season 1.
So season 1. So are we starting season 2?
Season 2 is today. Because
wow.
technically
so
opening
Caroline
day,
is starting with a 0. That's great. We're going to take the lead, D-Mase.
There you go. Exactly.
I like this.
I will say I
Take
did
any advantage I can.
I did say the white flag last week. I
That's
added a Mookie Betts home run for the season 2 of Take It to the Bank.
Yeah, you did say that.
And
He did say that.
That did happen, by the way. He hit the first home run of the season.
He had a
which is
huge weekend. Or not weekend. He had 2-game
Two-day.
series over there. Yeah.
Incredible. And so with that, Mookie Betts to lead that off of things. But Caroline is the winner of season 1 of Take It to the Bank. Final standing numbers here. Caroline at the top with 147. Derek at 136. Willy made a good effort, late run there, 121. And then myself at 95 at the bottom. So this could be.
I did end on a high note, didn't I?
You did. Yeah, you had a hot
mine,
streak.
I got mine last week, didn't I?
You did. You did.
Okay. Yeah. So I feel good about how I finished.
Feeling
I had a
good?
terrible start.
Feeling
to the
good?
season. Too big of a hole. I'm glad we're resetting here.
Yeah, I like your mojo, Willie. With that,
Okay.
you can start us. Go ahead.
Okay.
All right, I'm just going to stick with my brackets, and as bad as they've been, I just got to stick with it. I'm going to go, and I said it on the air earlier this week, I'm going to go with the 2-12 seeds tonight, James Madison and Grand Canyon, to pull the upsets. And I could kind of play it down the middle and say they'll both cover, but no. I picked them in the brackets, and I'm going to pick them straight up. James Madison over Wisconsin, Grand Canyon and Bryce Drew over the Gales of St. Mary. Boom.
All right. Let me start with the red hot, the best team in the NHL, the Nashville Predators. They will score at least 3 goals versus the Red Wings, my beloved Red Wings. Yossi will have one of those goals.
Okay.
And I'm going to call them the Broadway Bouncers.
The Broadway Bouncers.
The
Okay.
Broadway Bouncers will have at least 1 point.
Okay, so their line will get a goal.
Their line will get a goal.
Okay.
They will get 1 point.
Sherwood, McCarron, and Smith.
Mm-hmm.
The line that we've been trying to name all week, that we've been workshopping, this has emerged today, the Broadway Bouncers.
Yes, that's what I am calling.
They'll get one.
Mm-hmm.
I like that idea.
Yeah.
That sounds like a good formula.
I have breaking news from the Caroline Fenton.
Oh, she saw the time. She's not that. She must not be having fun. She's thinking about the show.
In all capital letters. Take it to the bank? Question mark? Question mark? It just hit me. Am I too late? Please. Am I too late?
Say yes. She's too late.
She may not get a 0.
Here she goes. Her pick. Philip Forsberg, 2 points tomorrow, and the proper gloat of her Auburn Tigers to win.
Okay.
That was her pick. So that is Caroline at the buzzer. No pun intended.
She did say Auburn. She did last week say Auburn would win the SEC tournament. That was a good call.
Yep. So D-Mase already went, which he got his the Broadway Bouncers. If I can speak good
Broadway
English.
Bouncers.
I love that name. It's a
me
good
too.
little ring.
We're going to make it stick.
You
Nick.
guys are get the marketing out. Let's see if it sticks.
As for myself this week, opening day is next week. So before, for next Friday, we'll have all the games play out. I'm going to go with, this is tough, but I'm going to go with some home runs. O'Neal Cruz. He's back from his injuries in Pittsburgh. Take O'Neal Cruz to get a home run. And you know what? Let's go with over in total. I'll look this number up in the MLB for starting pitchers to have over 103 strikeouts for opening day pitchers next week. That is what I'm going to go with there. I know that's
okay. You're going to have to do some math, and that is your department. We'll
Yes.
just take what you get because that sounds like a chore to add all those numbers up.
It'd be something fun.
Okay.
Yeah.
You got it.
But there we go. And as for that, we will take it over to Willie.
Western Kentucky on a haymaker right now. They have punched Marquette in the mouth. 18-3 run. 40 seconds to go in the first half. Western leads Marquette, the 2 seed, 43-34. The Hilltoppers on a roll. Good
Come
grief.
on, Marquette.
They are just blowing by. They trailed early in this game. This is one to keep your eye on for sure. Jared Stillman is coming up. Stillman and Company. Tehran is here, so he'll be there. Everybody have a great weekend. I'll see you in Smashville tomorrow. Red Wings in town. That is going to be awesome. Can the Predators get to 17? We shall see. It's going to be an awesome weekend. Everybody be safe, and we'll talk to you on Monday.
Be loved. Love on your people. Have a wonderful and safe weekend.